and welcome to the 2026 Milton Speaks Candidate Forum. My name is Adam Cheers, and I will be tonight's introductory host and moderator for the first forum. I'm joined by Mr. Jose Zamora of the Milton Times, Mr. Ben Neugebauer, Mr. John Griffin, Mr. Kevin Gordon, Ms. Orla Cross, and Ms. Penelope Jane of the Milton High School debate team. But first, some housekeeping. Candidates were contacted through the town clerk's office as well as by Milton Access TV for participation in these forums. Candidates were not given questions or subject matter before tonight's debate. Tonight's questions will be directed towards all candidates, and no individual questions will be asked. Tonight's questions are also solicited from the public. So if you do not hear your question being asked, it may be part of another question or repeat question from another panel member. Tonight's forum will follow this format. Each candidate will be given a 90-second opening statement. Candidates will then be asked questions by members of the panel. Each candidate will be allowed a 90-second response to each question. The order of the first question will be alphabetical by last name, with the order changing for each subsequent question. There will be a 1-minute closing response offered to each candidate for which the order will be chosen randomly. Please know there will be no rebuttals. I also ask that you finish your thoughts and bring your response to a close at the end of this 90-second time. You can reference the countdown clock and the screen directly in front of you, which will flash red when 15 seconds remain. Tonight's forum will feature the candidates for the Select Board, Board of Assessors, Board of Health, School Committee, Library Trustee, Planning Board. We will begin with the Select Board. Each candidate was asked to submit a brief bio, which I will read now. After the bio, the candidate will read their opening statement. We begin tonight with Mr. Chisholm. Kevin Chisholm Jr. has lived in Milton for most of his life and serves the town in a variety of both elected and appointed roles, including as town meeting member from Precinct 7, a town constable, a member of the Select Board appointed Affordable Housing Trust, a member of We Are Milton, a member of the St. Agatha Parish Pastoral Council, and a longtime coach in the Milton Babe Ruth Baseball League. Professionally, he works at the Massachusetts State House as the legislative aide to State Representative Richard Wells, serving the 7th Norfolk District of Milton and Randolph by assisting constituents, helping them navigate state government, and advising on public policy issues. Welcome, Mr. Chisholm. You have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you. Reading that bio, I can't believe I do all that. It's amazing. Good evening, and thank you. It's truly an honor to be a candidate for one of 2 seats on the Milton Select Board. Of course, I want to begin by thanking the Milton High School debate team, the Milton Times, and the incredible crew, Milton Access Television, for all they do. The always working crew, it seems like, at Milton Access TV. And hello to everyone watching tonight and at home. My name is Kevin Chisholm Jr. I'm running because I love this town. Running for a seat in the Milton Select Board because I truly love the town of Milton. Milton has given so much to me and to my family, as it has for so many across our town. And it's a town I'm proud to live in, to have been raised in, to work and coach in every single day. I believe that my experience in both local and state government has prepared me to step in on day one and get to work for our residents. Because we know that the challenges are ahead, like in so many communities. Smart budgeting, traffic, strong schools, making sure we support our seniors, our veterans, and every town department. And we must stand strong for public safety. That means fully supporting our police, our fire, our emergency personnel, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They show up for us. We need to show up for them. I'm honored today to have received the endorsement of the Milton Police Patrolmen's Association, and I'm ready to get to work for you and all the residents of the town of Milton. Thank you so very much, and look forward to tonight's conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Musto. Ms. Roxanne Musto is proud to call Milton home, a place where she grew up, raised her family, and volunteered to help our community in numerous ways. Ms. Musto has a long history of service to Milton, having previously served a term on the Select Board and is currently a member of the Board of Health. Ms. Musto, you have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you for the high school debate team, Milton Times, and for our TV. My name is Roxanne Musto. I'm excited to run for the Select Board. I love the town that I grew up in. I'm a graduate of the Milton Public Schools. My undergraduate degree is from Boston University, and my graduate degree is from Northeastern. I raised my family here, and both of my sons attended and graduated from Tucker Elementary, Pierce Middle School, and Milton High School. I've always been involved in the community, whether it was on the Tucker School PTO, as a warrant committee member, which reviews town budgets, as a town meeting member, Brush Hill Area Neighborhood Leader, Board of Health member, or as a Select Board member. I love to help people and find solutions to problems. I'm running for the Select Board because I care about our town, and I believe that the board would benefit from the experiences and skill set that I bring. I won't have to learn the job on the job because I've already done the job, and I did it well. In addition to my volunteer experience professionally, I work as a nurse practitioner caring for our senior population. I have to exercise care, good judgment, and collaboration, all vital skills for the Select Board. I don't just say what I stand for, I've demonstrated it through my actions. Decades of supporting our schools and our students, as well as our town departments. Our community's quality of life depends on both excellent schools and strong municipal services, and I'm grateful to the Milton Police Patrolmen's Association for endorsing my campaign. The safety of our community is essential for all of our residents. Our town faces important challenges, from funding budgets, traffic, public infrastructure, to a hospital bed capacity crisis. I believe the best way to move forward is by listening first, working collaboratively, and focusing on thoughtful solutions. Let's keep Milton a great place to live and raise a family and establish roots. I respectfully ask for your vote on the 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Musto. Up next is Ms. Nolan. Ms. Megan Nolan is a nurse executive with 20 years of experience. She serves as the Senior Director of Nursing and Patient Care Operations at a pediatric children's hospital and holds a MSN in Nurse Executive Leadership and an MBA from the Yale School of Management. Welcome, Ms. Nolan. You have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you. And thank you to the Milton High School debate team. Thank you to Milton Access Television, and thank you to Milton Times. I'm Megan Nolan. I'm a Tucker mom. I'm a nurse with 20 years of experience, and I have a Yale MBA, so I understand finances. I've been a town meeting member, and I've been doing the work in this community for years. I've shown up for Milton, and I've shown up even when it's hard, and we have hard times ahead. I run the operating room at a pediatric hospital in Boston. I manage a large team with complex budgets and hard financial decisions and plans that carry real consequences for people. I build systems that catch problems before they become emergencies, bring people together to solve hard issues, and make sure that we follow through on those commitments. This is the kind of leadership that Milton needs right now. We are facing real decisions, challenging financial outlooks, a new school building, and a $16 million firehouse project. This is not a moment for on-the-job training. I'm running because I believe the world gets better when good people show up and do the work, and I'm here to do that work for Milton.
Thank you, Ms. Nolan. And our last candidate is Mr. Oberscheimir. Mr. Pete Oberscheimir is a proud East Milton resident, invested Cullycott PTO parent, Precinct 6 town meeting member, and a youth sports coach. He is senior counsel and head of litigation and employment at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute with 15 years of legal experience. Pete is proud to be endorsed by the Milton Educators Association and wants to bring his kind and capable leadership style to build consensus and unite Milton residents. You have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Good evening to everyone at home watching. I want to thank the hosts and the Milton High School debate team. I'm Pete Oberscheimir. I'm delighted to be here. My family is deeply invested in Milton, and I'm deeply grateful for those who have previously served on our town boards. But if we want new ideas and new solutions, we need to give new leaders a chance. For most of my 15 years as an attorney, I've been a senior attorney at Dana-Farber. I negotiate contracts, I manage litigation, I have grown our staff, I manage budgets, I work with unions. Throughout all of that, I've been recognized a few years ago as a top 10 in-house attorney by the largest global in-house association for attorneys. I was recognized for my innovation and ability to bring people together. With that experience, I offered two ideas already for no cost. That would be improvements and no cost to the town. One idea on traffic and one idea on enhancing our grant writing capabilities in town. On traffic, I think we need to enhance the support that our experts on the Traffic Commission have by adding more volunteers and more meetings so that the next townwide study on traffic that comes in doesn't collect us on the shelf like the 2020 study that we had. On grant writing, we used to employ a grant writer in the town, and we no longer do. I think we need to recruit volunteers to help secure funds for fire personnel, fire equipment, public safety, and other issues in town. These are just no-cost ideas that I'd like to implement right away, and there's more to talk about tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And now to begin the forum, we'll start the first question coming from Miss Jane, and will be asked in this order: Mr. Chisholm, then Miss Musto, followed by Miss Nolan, and finally Mr. Oberstein.
Our first question tonight is, what will your experience uniquely bring to the select board?
Thank you for the question. I think I bring both, as I mentioned in my opening statement, both local and state government experience I think is necessary to serve on the board currently. I also bring real committee town-wide experience as well. As I mentioned, as a town meeting member, serving for 2 years now in the Affordable Housing Trust, which I think has opened my eyes to the affordability issues that our town is facing and the housing issues in our town as well. I'm very proud of my service in state government, working for the people and the residents of the 7th Norfolk District every day. The relationships that I've been able to build with our state agencies are so important for the town of Milton, and I believe that that skill set would be able to be a great benefit to the board. I also was born here, was raised here, and have a strong institutional knowledge of who our department heads are and the men and women who work for our town each and every day. We have some really good people that work for our town, and I'm honored to know and to work with so many of them each and every day. I think that skill set is another important thing I bring to the table, along with the many things I've been involved in so far in my young life still. But I believe the institutional knowledge I bring to the table for what our town is, and my experience serving as a town meeting member, as an affordable housing trustee, and what I do each and every day on Beacon Hill for the residents is what I bring. So thank you for the question.
Could you repeat, please?
Of course. The question is, what will your experience uniquely bring to the select board?
Thank you for the question. So as you've heard in my opening, I've served on the select board. I've served currently on the Board of Health. I've been on many committees within the town. I grew up here, so I have a lot of relationships with people, and I think that's really important. I treat everybody with respect, and I think that's really needed as someone who respects people in different opinions, because that's how you learn and that's how you grow. And I believe in transparency, and I think that I've brought that forward when I was on the select board, with the select board packets, so that you as a resident will understand what we're debating about at the select board and you have the background on it. I think that's really important. And in my professional career as a nurse practitioner, I'm often dealing with tough situations that I have to think on my feet. I have to deal with a bunch of different people, collaborate, and I think that's really important because you can't just live in a vacuum and make a decision. You have to understand that we have neighborhoods, we have residents, we represent everybody, and we have to listen to all viewpoints and we have to come to solutions. And I like to have solutions and problem solve and sometimes think out of the box to, fix a problem that's existing. So I think all of these characteristics that I've always done every day of my life in the real world and in the select board and the Board of Health, I think translate really well to this role. Thank you.
It's my turn. I think this is a great question. Thank you for asking it. I believe my qualifications stand for themselves. The work that I do every day is I run operations. So as an operational leader, I lead a large team, like I already mentioned, and that's about budget decisions. And it's making sure that at the end of the month that we have spent what we said we were going to spend, and my hospital holds me accountable to make sure that I'm not overspending. So any variances as well. So I believe that really financial management skill is making sure that we know where every dollar is going. The other thing is making sure that we have creative solutions. In our town, we have some real challenges ahead, and we've got to be thinking about what some different opportunities are for making sure that we can meet the needs of our town, of our schools, of our police and our fire and our DPW, while also thinking creatively. And I like what Pete said about having some different grant opportunities. I also support that. I think that's a great idea of how to bring more things into our town. The other thing is, at a hospital, as you can imagine, physicians, hospital administrators, and nurses don't always see eye to eye. And I'm great at bringing those folks together to really have creative solutions to find the common ground, and those are the skills that I'll bring to the select board. Thank you.
Sure thing. I'm a professional that brings people together. The last 5 or 6 years, we've had some difficult issues at Milton, whether it was division that came from the MBTA, difficult budget issues, and there's going to be some challenging issues ahead. And we really need to be looking for people who have a track record of bringing people together and succeeding professionally. I've been doing that at professional and a personal level. Professionally, just in my time as a lawyer, I've been dealing with, Dana-Farber, large projects with leaders with strong convictions and different views, and we have to make decisions and get through it united and together. 2 quick examples. One, during the early pandemic, we were dealing with risks of supply chain shortages and a partially quarantined workforce. And we had to navigate through that together and stay united during that. More recently, I'm working on a $1.6 billion new cancer hospital building that's going to be a landmark in Boston for decades to come. These are difficult decisions requiring strategic planning. On a personal level, I believe we have so much more in common than we do that divides us. And that's how I approach relationships professionally and personally. And we start with what we have in common, and we find ways to work through together. So I'm a professional that brings people together.
Thank you. The next question will be from Ms. Cross, first asked to Ms. Musto, then Ms. Nolan, followed by Mr. Obersheimer, and concluded by Mr. Christie.
Hey everybody. So my question is, Milton is facing simultaneous pressure from rising costs and state housing mandates. Is there one decision you'd push on the select board to promote long-term stability?
I think we all have to, thank you for the question. I think we all have to work together. As far as housing affordability, I myself have 2 sons that would love to be able to afford to stay here in Milton on their own. Everything is so expensive. And I would like to see things like the Affordable Housing Trust purchase some properties where they can, make them into maybe 2, like buy a house and maybe make 2 properties there. So it's more of a house for someone to live in versus we're putting up high rises in town. And I feel that when people are in a house, it feels more like a home than living in an apartment. So I would love to see that, and I would really want to work towards that. I think that's really important. I think affordability is tough. The economy is sort of tough right now. And so we should be doing everything we can to support the people that are here, that are struggling. We have people in this town struggling with housing, with food insecurity. That's why we have some programs at Town Hall for people to get food, leave something and take something. So it's, they're sort of interwoven, I think, some of these concepts, but I would definitely be pushing for the Affordable Housing Trust to be looking at some of that. I think having a home is really what we should be aiming for people. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Milton is facing simultaneous pressure from rising costs and state housing mandates. Is there one decision you'd push on the select board to promote long-term stability?
It's a really great question, and I've heard this from neighbors as we've been knocking on doors and talking to our folks. I can't say that there's one silver bullet that really fixes all of this for everyone. The challenge is complex. Rising housing costs. It's expensive to live here. And we want to keep seniors in town. As Roxanne mentioned, we want to have our children be able to afford homes in town. I think we have to come up with creative solutions, and how I would approach this is really working with the select board to understand what's available and what pieces we could have in the future to look at having affordable housing developed, and really in close partnership with the planning.
This is a serious topic. Housing costs are through the roof. We need to think about diversifying our housing that's available while still protecting, the character that is Milton. I agree with Megan. I don't think there's a singular solution here, but if I could do one thing, I would think about it more structurally for the town. I think the select board and planning board need to find a stride in how to work better together. I would be interested in, periodic regular meetings between them and really focus on a longer term strategic plan to tackle these issues. You see it in other towns. We need to set targets for where we want to go as a town for strategic planning around housing targets, growth options. I think each of the candidates here, we previously said in prior debates, we're all for some level of incremental commercial growth. What does that mean? Like we need to set guideposts to guide to be our North Star for each decision that comes our way, so that each decision isn't a first in time in restarting the process. So, and that's my job as an in-house attorney, is to think about gaps we have in our approach and how we go about things. So I would think about the structure that we have with that collaboration between the planning board and the select board.
Repeat the question.
Yeah. Milton is facing simultaneous pressure from rising costs and state housing mandates. Is there one decision you'd push on the select board to promote long-term stability?
Rising costs are an issue here in Milton and the other 350 cities and towns across Massachusetts and across our country as well. And here in Milton, one of the things I did, as I mentioned in the outset, was to join the Affordable Housing Trust and put my name forward to join that trust. I think as someone who grew up in this town and instead of waiting around saying, oh, let's wait to see if housing prices will come down or let's wait to see what will happen, I decided to put my name forward and try to offer solutions. And I think the Affordable Housing Trust has done that in many ways. One of the things I was very proud to see and support as a member of the trust was the expansion of some units at Winter Valley. We talk about keeping seniors here in Milton. Very proud to support that effort and hope we would continue to partner with other groups such as Winter Valley so that seniors are not taxed out of their homes here in Milton, and all ages as well. So kids that I grew up with, played sports with, went to school with, can continue to live here in Milton, raise a family like their families did as well. I think Pete is right, and Megan too, there is no silver bullet here. I think we get the big three together in this housing crisis, and what I mean by that is the Select Board, the Planning Board, and our Affordable Housing Trust as well. The Budget Coordination Committee, I think, has set the blueprint on how coordination and collaboration should work in town. We have our groups in the same room, not operating in silos, talking with one another. I think we can make some headway if we follow what the Coordination Committee has done and making sure that we begin to find ways for all ages and all facets here in Milton to continue to live here, to raise a family, and contribute to the quality of life here in this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gordon will ask the next question. Ms. Nolan will respond first, followed by Mr. Obersheimer, then Mr. Chisholm, and concluded by Ms. Musto. Mr. Gordon.
So my question is, there have been moments where development pressures like zoning changes and the town's master plan have collided with preservation. How should Milton balance the need for growth and change with preserving the character and identity of the town?
Great question. Thank you so much. I think there is a real tension here between the right projects, and I think that it's the thoughtful communication between all parties to make sure that it's not all projects, that we're not saying yes to everything, that we really are thinking about what project makes sense for our town, what project makes sense for developing more spaces, but also keeping the characters of our towns, like you mentioned. So the right projects are ones that have genuine affordability and that they fit within the neighborhood, and that they go through a transparent process. And Milton is on track to get to the 10% subsidized housing with projects that are already in the pipeline, so we're making some progress. I think the question now is what we do next, and I think we have to be thoughtful, and I think we have to weigh kind of the pros and cons, that we're not being reactive. We want to make sure that we're engaging our community members, and we want to make sure that data is involved in this. So making sure that we're thinking thoughtfully through it, but we're also weighing the pros and cons with data. And we want to make sure that we're making a thoughtful decision. And so we want to listen to the people affected, and we want to make sure we understand what all of the trade-offs are. And so I think that's how we would approach dealing with this question of development versus character of the town. Thank you.
This can I go? All I sort of used my good stuff in my last answer, so I'm gonna do my best here. In addition to what I was talking about last answer, about coordination between the select board and the planning board, to develop sort of a longer term strategic plan about those goals are not mutually exclusive, about smart growth and preserving the character and conservation in the town. So many people come to Milton for not only the schools, but the Blue Hills, and a lot of the green that's here. In addition to the structural coordination between the committees, I think community engagement is gonna be key. An early step in some of that long-term planning is to gather feedback from the residents in terms of, data supporting where we wanna go. And I think as part of that process, you figure out, we may not be as far apart as a town as it seems sometimes. I mean, like I said in the last answer, each of the 4 candidates here has said at one time or another, support of some level of incremental commercial growth. And I think we should back those conversations up with some conversation at the select board level of some scenario playing out before, what does this level of commercial growth help with on tax burden, to help with the, the commercial, residential, difficult dynamics. So some of that visual scenario playing for residents.
Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
There have been moments where development pressures like zoning changes and the town's master plan have collided with preservation. How should Milton balance the need for growth and change with preserving the character and identity of the town?
Well, I'm a strong proponent of open space and recreation. We have a great open space and recreation committee here in town. I think conservation and recreation here in town are what make Milton what it is. We have the Blue Hills Reservation, obviously, which is a true resource. You go up for a hike, you go to ski, you go to the Blue Hills Trailside Museum, you go up to the Weather Observatory. It's a great place to go, and I think it's a real great resource here in town. As the other candidates touched on as well, and one of the reasons why I decided, to get in this race and to run for town meeting 2 years ago was because I am a strong proponent of neighborhood representation. So when we talk about commercial development, we talk about properties, the Labouré property, that's going to be coming up for a discussion. The East Milton Fire Station, a number of different properties that are going to be up for discussion that the select board is going to have to really dig deep in and talk about. We have to make sure our neighborhood groups, our neighborhood associations are at the table talking about this, because oftentimes they haven't been, and there's been very limited outreach to them. I hope to change that if elected to a member of the select board. I do agree with the need for smart and commercial growth, also to open up our tax base for industrial and commercial growth there, and I know the select board is making great strides for an increase in economic development as well. But before we do any of that, let's get our neighborhood and our groups together at the table, so making the right decisions for the town of Milton and its future, and preserving our open space as well. Thank you.
Gonna have you repeat one more time, since you're doing such a great job.
Yeah, thank you. There have been moments where development pressures like zoning changes and the town's master plan have collided with preservation. How should Milton balance the need for growth and change with preserving the character and identity of the town?
Thank you for the question. It's a delicate balance for sure. There is an economic development plan that is, there's money set aside between the select board and the planning board. It's gonna be a warrant article. And some of it will involve having community input into what we'd like to see in the community and so forth. And I think that's really important. And I think when you're looking at the community, you want to enhance and have some more small business in the community. When I grew up here, you talk about East Milton, where Mr. Chisholm grew up, there used to be, where the new development is, there used to be a bike shop there. And it was great to give back and buy my bikes for my kids over there. I love going to the small businesses in town. And I think two things here. I think people in the community need to support our small business so they thrive. And we need to put business where we can put it. And we need more neighborhood input where we can add some development, because we need to diversify the base of where we're getting our taxes from. We're heavily residential base, and any incremental increase that we can get on the commercial side is helpful. So I think that's really important, but you have to work with the community and where you're going to place these things. So I think it's always a delicate balance. You want to have better communication between planning and select board and neighbors and neighborhoods. Thank you.
Mr. Zamora of the Milton Times first asked Mr. Obersheimer, Mr. Prism, Ms. Musto, and finally Ms. Nolan.
Milton has had an ongoing budget problem. What would your approach be to addressing the current issues?
Sure. Two, good financial practices and creative revenue generation. And we're already started some of that in the past year. What we're digging out, and we just gotta keep that progress going. On the good financial practices piece, our boards are currently in the process of developing a more cohesive town forecast that's looking 3-5 years out and where we're headed financially. That allows us to spot deficits earlier on. This past year, January-ish, we spotted the deficit of FY '27 of 2.5 million, that meaningful progress was made to shrink that gap by the select board and the school committee. If we get that going earlier in the year, you can fix some of those gaps earlier on. There's a lot of work you can do just from good financial practices. Also with creative revenue generation, we need to find more money for the town. I talked about my interest in enhancing our grant capabilities, but we have to leave no stone unturned with finding more money for Milton. That ranges from working with our legislative delegation to advocate for more state funding for Milton, increasing our commercial tax base, other creative ideas that towns are going to have to consider now, like such as potentially a Airbnb tax or other things that we need to project these benefits and trade-offs in front of the residents so we can talk about it together and where else we can go.
Thanks for the question. Obviously, a very important issue on the heels of Milton passing a $9.5 million override last year. I want to touch on something that I had mentioned earlier, and that is the Budget Coordination Committee, and I'll talk about that again. If elected to the Select Board, I will continue, as I have as a private citizen now, but as a member of the board, to advocate for the continuation of that committee. Again, it's imperative that we have the members who are elected to do their job in the same room talking to one another. We have warrant committee, we have school committee, we have the select board, and we have citizen representation, which I think is great. And we have a man who has done yeoman's work for municipal budgeting for the schools, Mr. Leroy Walker, who is on that committee, has done an excellent job, and I'm very proud to see that work, and you'll have no greater advocate for that effort than me if elected. I do believe my local and state government experience comes into play here. We're currently going through the state budget process now, and so that effort is robust, and part of my job is making sure that we get some amendments going forward for our communities, and we have the necessary state funds coming to our town. I believe that experience, along with my advocacy for our committees and making sure as well, just the final point, is that our town departments are felt and they're respected. Oftentimes we hear that, great staff, and we certainly do, and the output is great, but oftentimes they don't feel heard enough. The select board has a role to do that. The select board may be the chief executive office, certainly is. I view them also as the chief advocate as well, and that goes for our town departments, making sure their voices and concerns and needs are at the table too. Thanks for the question.
Repeat the question kindly.
Doris, what would your approach be to addressing the current ongoing budget issues?
Thank you for the question. I think that the forecasting for 3 to 5 years out is very essential. We used to do that at some point. I think we should be doing 3 to 5 year outlooks for every department. I think that's helpful to do. As you heard from Mr. Chisholm, there is that strategic budget coordination committee, which I think is good. It's a lot of different people at the table. That's a newer thing that started. I think it should continue. I think it's great to have everybody at the table, schools and town side, to working together on the budget process. I think the other thing we should be looking at is all of our permit fees. So we have building permit fees. We have some through the Board of Health. I know that we've re-looked on the Board of Health at some of those permit fees. I think that's a way to bring in a little bit of extra revenue. So I think we should look at all of that. And just try to think creatively if there's any other way that we could generate some revenue. And I think that's the area when you have a lot of people sitting at the table on a committee like that, you're gonna get different ideas from different people, and that's the value of it. So I would encourage that, as well as, getting ideas from the community. When you're going door to door and you talk with different people, you hear different ideas. And there are a lot of people out there that have some really creative ideas. We have very successful people out in our community, and I think we should be open to creative ideas that they may have that we may not have thought of. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Of course. What would your approach be to addressing the current budget issues?
So I would take a multifactorial approach. I think the challenge that we have comes from many different departments, being structural as one. You know, we have 97% residential tax base, and that leads to our affordability challenges, especially for our seniors, for our teachers and firefighters and police that are living in town. So we need to diversify our tax base, and that doesn't happen overnight. But if we are thoughtful about what we do to bring in different opportunities within town, I think we can really start working on that. So we have to do kind of, this is not the silver bullet plan, this is like do everything plan. So I think really thinking about diversifying our tax base, and that's having more smart development for our town. I really support what the select board is doing with the economic development plan. I think we would need to continue that and maybe expand. I also like to see what's happening with the budget coordination committee, that we're really looking across the different departments, making sure that we're all kind of understanding that and that we're aligned with what we're thinking about spending and what we can actually spend. And I think that aligns with financial forecasting as well. So I think we really need to be doing a thoughtful planning around how we spend our money and really thinking about where the money's going and making sure we know where every dollar is going. I think the other piece is we really need to be creative, in addition to economic development, about thinking about things like grants, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our select board forum questions, and we will now hear closing statements from the candidates chosen at random. The order will be Ms. Musto, Mr. Obersheimer, Ms. Nolan, and finally, Mr. Grissom.
Okay, thank you. I'm running for the select board because I care about the town, and I believe that the board would benefit from the experiences and skill set that I have. I touched on this earlier, both professionally and in volunteer roles, I have the experience. A common theme in my background is that I am someone who listens, collaborates, exercises good judgment and care, and focuses on thoughtful, practical solutions. This is the approach we need from our select board in addressing our town's challenges if we want to ensure that our town remains a great place to raise a family, make a home, and establish roots. Milton is at an inflection point. The choices we make today will impact our town for many years to come. The stakes are too high to roll the dice in this race. I won't have to learn the job on the job, because with me, you know what you'll get because I've already done it. I don't just say what I stand for, I've demonstrated in my actions. Decades of strong, consistent support for our schools and town departments, countless occasions where residents have came to me for help and I've helped them address their concerns. Serving in volunteer roles has dealt with this town has dealt, and when this town has dealt with some of the most consequential decisions to date, and I respectfully ask for one of your 2 votes on the select board. Thank you.
Mr. Obersheimer.
It's been an honor to be here tonight, and the questions were fantastic. You know, I've spoken with a lot of people during this campaign, and you know, I don't think people want sort of the same ideas or the same solutions that we've tried over the last few years. I think people want new leaders who are going to bring us together. I think that comes from a local feeling and national feeling, where we're sick of feeling divided and looking to disagree first. You know, I think that leadership comes in all shapes and sizes. One thing I want to do, based on my volunteer background, is set up a volunteer webpage in town to connect volunteers with community organizations in town, like the Milton Council on Aging. That we also come together when we're confident in our leadership. I've been a top 10 attorney at a top specialty hospital in the country for over 10 years, and I think I can help. So I'd love to be considered for one of your 2 votes on April 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Nolan.
Thank you. Our biggest challenge ahead are financial. And so this election comes down to one question. Who's ready to make the right financial decisions and plans that Milton needs right now? I manage a large team and complex budget. I make these financial decisions every day that have these real consequences. I know how to plan ahead, make trade-offs, and put systems in place that prevent problems before they become emergencies. So Milton right now is facing these exact kind of decisions: a challenging financial outlook, a new school building, and a $16 million firehouse. This moment requires real discipline, transparency, and follow-through. My priorities are clear: strong financial stewardship, fully funding our schools, and leadership that brings people together to get things done. I show up, I do the work, and I deliver. And I'd be honored to have your vote. Also, thank you so much. This was a lovely evening. I really appreciate it.
Finally, Mr. Crizzle.
Well, thank you. Thanks very much again to the panel. Great questions from both the Milton Times and Milton High School Debate Team. And thanks, of course, to Milton Access Television as well. I stated tonight at the outset that I'm running for Select Board because of my love, my care, and my concern for Milton. And I'm running to offer a fresh perspective with my necessary experience in both our local and state government, as well as to bring decorum and civility back to the Select Board table. The residents of this town, many listening and watching here tonight, look to the Select Board to lead and to work on all the issues we've talked about here tonight and will continue to talk about throughout this campaign. I'm honored to be a candidate and be up for consideration for your vote, but I'm even more honored to be a resident of this great town and to have lived here, to work here, and to hopefully one day raise a family here. I'm committed to Milton for the long run and I'd be honored to have your vote on Tuesday, April 28th. Thank you. Good night. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you to our Select Board candidates. Please give us a moment while we set up for our next forum, the Board of Assessors.
Assessor candidates. We will begin with Mr. Callahan. Tom Callahan has represented our town for 26 years as a town meeting member and is currently chair of the Community Preservation Committee and a member of the Affordable Housing Trust. Professionally, Tom has represented consumers for his entire career in the nonprofit sector, including 10 years involvement with the national board that sets standards and qualifications for appraisals and appraisers. Welcome, Mr. Callahan. You may now read your opening statement.
Thank you, and thank you to the Milton High School Debate Team. Congratulations to Orla and Penelope for their outstanding performance in the recent state tournament. And I also thank you to the Milton Times and Milton Access TV. 31 years ago, my wife Eileen and I chose Milton. We raised our two daughters here. They attended Milton Public Schools. We got involved in the community. I was a Milton girls softball coach for my daughters and treasurer of the Tucker PTO. We met our neighbors, which have turned into some of our best friends. Milton became home. I've continued to be involved with the town, serving as a town meeting member for 26 years, giving me a solid understanding of how our town government works. I'm chair of the Community Preservation Committee, which has contributed capital improvements all across town, from our baseball field at Andrews Park to helping restore Forbes House Museum. I've been a longtime member of the Affordable Housing Trust and spent the bulk of my career running a statewide nonprofit housing organization. But what makes me even better prepared for the Board of Assessors is my professional experience serving on the board of the Appraisal Foundation in Washington, D.C. That organization sets standards and qualifications for appraisals and appraisers. Milton employs a chief appraiser, an appraisal technician, and this board oversees that office. My experience makes me the best choice for this position.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Our next candidate is Warren Lizio. Warren Lizio has spent 21 years managing residential and commercial properties throughout New England. From single-family homes to apartment communities, he is a certified property manager and former president of Boston's 700-member Property Management Association. A BC High graduate and a father of two, Warren is an elected town meeting member who serves on the Affordable Housing Trust and East Milton Neighborhood Association Board. Welcome, Mr. Lizio. You may now read your opening statement.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Milton Debate Team. Thank you, Milton Times, and thank you, Milton Access TV. Good evening. My name is Warren G. Lizio, and I'm running for the Milton Board of Assessors. I've lived in Milton since 2020 with my wife, Andrea, our two sons, and our dog, Tilly. This is our home, and I have skin in the game the same way every homeowner here tonight watching tonight does. I grew up in a family where public service was expected. For 21 years, I've worked in residential and commercial property management, from single-family homes to apartment communities to office parks. People trust me with their single largest financial assets. And what makes me effective is simple: I listen. When people don't feel heard, trust breaks down. And that's exactly why I'm running for this board. The Board of Assessors values every property in Milton, administers tax exemptions for seniors and veterans, and hears appeals from the residents who believe their assessments are unfair. It is nonpartisan by law and by function, no political agenda. Every taxpayer treated exactly the same. I bring firsthand experience on both sides of the assessment process, a deep understanding of what Milton's development pipeline means for this office, and a genuine commitment to serving every resident of this town with fairness, respect, and professionalism. I'm ready to get to work on your behalf. Thank you.
And now to begin the forum, we will start with a question from Ms. Cross, which will be asked first to Mr. Callahan and then Mr. Lizio.
Okay, so my question is, with the passing of the property tax override last year, how do you plan on ensuring that the current tax evaluations will continue to meet the budgetary needs of this town?
Right, that's an essential portion, responsibility of this office is to make sure that the evaluations on all of our homes, all of our commercial properties, all of our large residential properties are fair and equitable. So we've got to get that right for Milton taxpayers. We're going to have, as we've talked about earlier in this evening, we are going to have some large multifamily residential buildings coming on. Those are very valuable buildings. Getting the assessments right on those buildings means that single-family homeowners won't have to pay more in their taxes. If we undervalue those homes, the burden is going to shift to single-family homeowners. So we really have to make sure those are paying their fair share of taxes. Those buildings are paying their fair share of taxes. The other thing I would like to explore is how we can help seniors stay in their homes and stay and afford the taxes in Milton. There are a number of tools already at the Board of Assessors' disposal. I'd like to make sure we enhance those and make sure all seniors know about those and really are taking advantage of those. I met with Christine Stanton at the Council on Aging a couple weeks ago. She said only 16 of the 25 slots for the senior tax work-off program were filled last year. There's got to be 25 seniors in this town that could benefit from that tax work-off program. So I'm hoping to publicize that in a much better way.
Thank you.
Would you please repeat the question?
Yep. With the passing of the property tax override last year, how do you plan on ensuring that the current tax evaluations will continue to meet the budgetary needs of this town?
So the tax evaluations, the assessments, should be evenly distributed throughout the town based on the type of property it is. So for instance, you would value a single-family home differently than you would an apartment community. There's different ways of valuing property and assessing it, and making sure that each is treated with, according to the letter of the law, is very important. We have in Milton a great team in the assessment office. Charlie, Curtis, and Barbara work very hard for this town, and they deserve a lot of respect for what they do. So the work that they do, and they do it very professionally with data-driven results, helps to ensure that people feel like their assessments are fair. And when that happens, it's a contribution that everybody makes to this town. And so although the Board of Assessors does not necessarily decide how much taxes people pay per se, they do decide what people's fair shares are. So that's fundamentally the answer.
Thank you.
The next question will be from Miss Jane and will first be asked to Mr. Lizio and then Mr. Callahan.
Okay, my question is, how will the influx of new condos in Milton, for example, Holland Developments on Randolph Ave, be accounted for and assessed within the operating budget's stabilization fund that was created last year?
So one thing that's fantastic about condominium development in Milton is it brings in homeowners that become invested in our community. So they're more likely to invest in their property, to make it more accessible, to make Milton their home. So when it comes to the fair assessment of those properties, as we start to develop more condos in Milton, we're going to have a larger data set to work off of. As it stands, we're working mostly off of sale value and making sure that they pay their fair share within reason is important. In terms of the stabilization fund, everybody's going to be contributing to that in a reasonable way. So although I'll admit I don't have every single answer, I'm totally willing to learn. And that's one of the things that really excites me about this office.
Yeah, I touched on this a little bit in my previous answer. I think, as Warren said, getting the values on these larger buildings correct is of ultimate importance. One of the things that I'd like to bring to the board is Milton doesn't have a lot of comps or comparables for these types of buildings, right? We've been mostly a town of single-family homes, so larger rental buildings, larger condo buildings, we don't have comps. We're gonna have to perhaps go outside of town to understand how they should be assessed. So I think that's one of the things we're gonna have to look at neighboring communities, other types of buildings that are similar that have been built to make sure we're fairly assessing them. Obviously, sales are gonna drive some of that assessment on the condo buildings, but on the rental buildings, I think I'm particularly concerned about those and getting the assessments right. Some of those are complex because they're multi-income, right? They have 75% market rate and 25% affordable. So there's a little bit of trickiness sometimes to put a proper value on properties. So, thank you.
Just a little issue with the timer, so if you can just use the laptop on the chair for now,
Okay.
sorry about that.
I thought it meant we could talk all night.
Bauer, and will be asked first to Mr. Callahan and then Mr. Lizio.
Good evening. What is your plan of action for dealing with residents who are not in agreement with the assessed value of their home?
Great question. So that's a very important priority of mine and of the board. We hear abatement requests. This is the board that makes decisions on abatement requests. So I think what I'd start with is communication about abatements and the ability to, a homeowner's ability to file an abatement is probably not equally understood all across town. So I think getting more information out there that people have a right to file for an abatement request is the place to start. I think I just came from a conference in DC where there's national studies out there that show residents of color file for abatements less often than white residents. That's an interesting statistic to know in a town that has 30% residents of color. So let's look at that in Milton, right? Is everybody across town know about the abatement process and know how to pursue that process? Once they file an abatement, we really have to take a look at the data and have the data drive the decision of whether an abatement is deserved or not. Thank you.
Question, please.
What is your plan of action for dealing with residents who are not in agreement with the assessed value of their home?
Good question. So I think part of it is being proactive in the information that's provided to everyone. I think the assessor's office in the town of Milton does a really good job of having an open door policy for anybody that has any questions. I think the next thing is that you really have to listen to people. So when I first posted the sign that the billboard that my wife put together quite nicely, someone called me who had just moved to Milton into a new home. And he had a real question about his assessment. And not yet on the board, I tried my best, given my background, to explain to him how valuations are done. Because if you have a question about your assessment, the assessor's office will send somebody out to take a look at your property and walk through it. So part of that is a conversation, and part of it is making sure that the evaluations were done correctly. Because within Milton, initially, even back to the condo question, a lot of these the evaluations are based off of a software called Patriot, which when you log in to see your assessment, you'll see that your assessment information is in the Patriot software. That is our baseline at the assessor's office, from which we make a determination if there needs to be a variance. So listening to the homeowner or property owner, making sure that they have the information, and going on site to work with them, I think is really important. But really, like, the office has to be accessible to everybody. If they have any questions, they should feel totally comfortable reaching out to any member of the assessor's board or the assessing department. Thank you.
The final question will be from Mr. Zamora and will be asked first to Mr. Lizio and then Mr. Callahan.
Existing system would you recommend, if any, and what parts of the current system do you feel are working the best?
Good question. So one area, and this is, I just want to be clear, this is not really a policy office. By nature, it should be fair and impartial. One thing that I think would be fantastic is if town meeting were to pass the HERO Act. That recognizes our veterans for all the work that they've done, for the service they put into this country. It also provides additional exemptions for those who've experienced some kind of disability or some kind of significant recognition, like a Purple Heart. That kind of law does a lot to recognize them, and in a town like Milton, I think they deserve that. So that's something that I would change, and that's something that the Board of Assessors would implement. What I think is working really well, and I've referred to it before, is I think the assessing department does a really good job here. I think they try really hard. I think we have the benefit of the town's assessor comes with a strong background in the software that we use, Patriot. And I think that there's really a collaborative mindset there, and I think that's really important. So, thank you.
Yeah, I picking up where Warren left off there, I agree, Charlie. I met with Charlie and Curtis a couple weeks ago, and they are really trying to improve the technology in that department. Like a lot of town departments, I think we suffer a little bit with antiquated technology, and they've done a great job on that. They need, I think, a few more resources to continue to improve the technology and the software in the department. So that's one of the things I think both is working because they're on the right track there, but it's also something that needs to get pushed over the finish line. Also met with former assessors, retired assessors from other towns and what they do in other towns. and I think there's a couple examples. One town has evening office hours occasionally, and that's an accessibility issue for folks who are working and might not be able to get to town hall during the daytime. That's an interesting idea. Another idea is having the assessor's office represented on the town finance working group. Amy Dexter, Joanna McCarthy, Nick Milano meet regularly to talk about the town finances. I think somebody from the assessing department or the board of assessors should be part of those meetings and help the town both in short-term and long-term forecasting.
That concludes our Board of Assessors forum. We will now hear closing statements from the candidates chosen at random. The order will be Mr. Lizio and then Mr. Callahan.
Thank you again. Milton debate team, Milton Access, and moderator John, I think, and Milton Times. So I want to leave everyone with something simple. My name is Warren G. Lizio, and I'm your neighbor. I live here, I raise my family here, and I care about Milton the same way you do. If you have a question about your assessment, I want you to feel comfortable picking up the phone or stopping me at the fruit center. That accessibility matters. It's part of the job and it's part of who I am. But being approachable does not mean favoritism. I have no political agenda. Every decision I make on that board will be fair, impartial, and grounded in facts. Every taxpayer, every property, every appeal, treated exactly the same. That is the standard I hold myself to professionally, and it's the standard Milton deserves from this office. I'm asking for your vote on April 28th, not because I have all the answers, but because I will always be honest with you. I will always listen, and I will always put Milton first. Thank you.
And Mr. Callahan, you have 60 seconds.
Right, thank you. I humbly ask for your votes on April 28th. We have raised our two daughters, Brenna and Devin, here, and my wife and I have made Milton our home. The last month on the campaign trail has been fun. We have talked with town officials, as I've mentioned. We've talked with former town officials, officials in other towns, really trying to learn more about what a modern, efficient assessing office should look like. And we've met you, the voters. As my wife and I have door knocked every precinct in Milton, we've had some great conversations with voters about what to expect from the Board of Assessors. I'm experienced, I'm qualified, I'm ready to serve on day one if I were to be fortunate enough to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you to the candidates, and please give us a moment while we set up for our school committee forum.
Welcome to our school committee forum candidates. We begin with Ms. Caldwell. Sharice Stevie Caldwell is a senior site reliability engineer and tech leader who works cross-functionally with organizations to solve complex systems challenges from inception to implementation. A Milton parent and a musician, she is running for the one-year seat on the Milton School Committee and is committed to protecting mental health resources, closing equity gaps, and bringing transparency and curiosity to every budget decision. Welcome, Ms. Caldwell. You have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you. First, hi, Mom. And thank you to Milton Access TV, Milton High School Debate Team, and Milton Times. As you said, my name is Charisse Caldwell. People call me Stevie. I'm a mom of a student at the high school. I'm a musician. I make music in my home and put it out for streaming. So yes, you can do that. And I'm also a leader in the technology field. So I'm going to try and get a quick story in here. So I was working with a client and he asked me to make a change to his infrastructure, to his environment. And I could have just made the change, but instead I went back to him and I asked, why do you want me to make this change? And I wasn't being obstructionist or being difficult or anything like that. But in my field, I've learned that sometimes people ask for solutions to the symptoms and not the underlying problem. And that's the kind of rigor and curiosity and creativity that I will bring to the school committee. My approach to troubleshooting is to research the problem, advocate for the solution, and then deliver that solution. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Caldwell. And now, Mr. O'Neill. Dan O'Neill and his wife, Da Huang, have 3 children. Vivian, a senior at the high school, Regina, a sophomore, and George, a 7th grader at the Pierce Middle School. The O'Neill family has lived in Milton for the past 16 years. Dan is a forensic accountant by profession and brings over 30 years of government auditing at the municipal, state, and federal levels. Currently, Dan is the Director of Compliance and Security at the Massachusetts State Lottery Commission, overseeing the anti-money laundering program. Welcome, Mr. O'Neill. You have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Milton Debate Team, Milton Times, and Milton Access TV. My name is Dan O'Neill, and I'm proud to announce my candidacy for the 4th time for the Milton School Committee. I've appeared so many times on this candidates forum that Shane Brandenburg, the executive director, came up to me before I got up here and offered me my own show here. So I'm so happy to be here to tell you that there's my skill set that I have is one of auditing. It's one of financial data-driven programming that I do at the Massachusetts State Lottery. My wife and I moved to Milton for the school system. I always believe in giving back to the town. I volunteer as a faith formation teacher at St. Elizabeth's Church. I spent 6 years coaching youth soccer. And I've spent 14 years as the president of United We Stand for Jason. It's a nonprofit set up to help those with Huntington's disease. So the Milton school budget needs somebody like me. I mean, the Milton school budget has changed so drastically that it needs somebody like myself on that board in order to make data-driven decisions for the children and for the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. And now to begin the school committee candidate forum. We will begin with a question from Mr. Neugebauer, and it will be asked first to Ms. Caldwell before being asked to Mr. O'Neill.
Good evening. What do you feel is the most pressing issue when it comes to the Milton Public School System in the next few years, and how do you plan to address it?
Thank you for the question. I think the most pressing issue will be the hiring of a superintendent, as well as the assistant superintendent of finance operations, as both of those positions will be vacant. The superintendent really has the ability to set the tone for the way the district goes forward. So having a superintendent who has the financial acumen that we need, who understands the fiscal challenges of a community like ours is very important. And the kind of superintendent you have also directly affects the kind of talent that you attract as educators and the kind of talent that you retain as educators. You want a superintendent that has a demonstrated track record of building strong relationships with the educators in their district, a relationship of trust. And furthermore, I would like a superintendent that has some demonstrable and data available about their devotion or their ability to approach decisions equitably. People say they're into diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I want to see data that shows that they've actually implemented programs in their districts and have had some proven outcomes from the things that they've implemented. So that's the most important thing, I think, coming up.
Could you repeat the question?
What do you feel is the most pressing issue when it comes to the Milton Public School system in these next few years, and how do you plan to address it?
It's the budget. And if I didn't say it again, it's the budget and it's the budget. When I first ran for the Milton School Committee, the budget stood at $58.4 million. Today, this fiscal year, we stand at $75,613,973. That's an increase of over 22% or $17 million. In order to make informed decisions, you have to understand the historical budget of this school committee. The skill set that I possess, I will be able to go back these past 5 years and do what we call an expense audit, where you find the cost centers where we're spending our money and how it has grown, and whether or not there is duplicate efforts that have been overlooked. And we have to start getting really super serious on this budget. And I'm so happy that there's a new collaboration between the board of, the select board and the school committee, and in order to get to the heart of just locking in one number, turning on the blinders, and then finally at the end of the school year, trying to rush around, trying to figure out how are we in this deficit. That skill set I possess, and I'll bring it to that board. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. The next question will be from Mr. Griffin and will be asked first to Mr. O'Neill before being asked to Ms. Caldwell. Mr. Griffin.
The new school project in our town has currently been put on a partial hold because of the current budget struggles that the Milton Public Schools face, despite the override passing. At what point would you say that it would be prudent to proceed with the construction, given that more space is clearly needed at the moment?
Okay. In this day and age, the cost of construction of a new school, inflation, and the ability for the town to receive funding from the Massachusetts School Building Authority is super important in order to understand what kind of decision you're going to make on whether or not you're going to build an addition onto the Collycott Cunningham School, whether or not we're going to build a completely new elementary school, and or are we going to build an upper middle school on the Lamb Sisters estate next to the high school. So in order to do that, you have to understand where are we going to get the money in order to build this school, okay? And it goes back to the budget. It goes back to understanding what the amount of money it's going to take to build the school. When I first started, there was estimate of the school is going to be built for $105 million. That estimate is growing, and it's getting closer to $300 million. The ability to make the right informed decisions on a new school, on an addition or a renovation, you got to put me on that board. Thank you.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Of course. The new school project in our town has currently been put on a partial hold because of the current budget struggles that the Milton Public Schools face, despite the override passing. At what point would you say that it would be prudent to proceed with the construction, given that more space is clearly needed at the moment?
Thank you. So obviously you want to take into consideration our current budget challenges, which is one of the reasons, as you said, it's been partially put on hold. We have, I believe, completed Module 1 of the Mass School Board Association's work
with Milton. So we've certified enrollment numbers for 3 different scenarios. The new elementary school for 495 students, the new middle school for 660 students. We're renovating Collicott Cunningham for 1,400 students. So those are the scenarios that are out there that we still have to explore and get information about their feasibility. It's a feasibility study that we need to do, and that we're in the midst of, I guess. And the town has voted, I know, to extend the reverter clause for that land that would be a place potentially for a new school building until 2033. So we have until 2033 to decide if we're going to go forward with building that. And there does appear to be the indication that, the school committee rather, has financially planned out to FY30. So there is the indication that there may be another override in FY30. So I think that's probably around the time that we'll be looking at whether or not we can fund a new school or the renovation for an existing school.
Thank you, candidates. The next question will be from Mr. Cheers and will be asked first to Ms. Caldwell before being asked to Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Mr. Gordon. Hello, candidates. Another question on the budget. With budget struggles being apparent in the Milton Public Schools over the last few years and resulting in increased fees for clubs and facility rentals, many Milton residents' trust in the financial management of the school system has dwindled. How do you propose Milton continue to maintain and improve public confidence in school budgeting?
Thank you for the question. So this is a really important one and one that's near and dear to my heart, which is communication and education. I think it's important to get the public, the community involved in the budgeting process right away. So one of the things that I think is really disconcerting for people is when they don't hear anything for a while, and then when something pops up, then that's when they hear about budget concerns, right? When they're learning about a shortfall. So being transparent about the process of the budget from the very beginning, involving the community, showing that data, making the website easily accessible, making those reports easily accessible. I would like to have sort of office hours where people can come and ask me questions about the things that we're working on the school committee. I think that's just one more step. And then people can see the process of the budget. They can see in real time where the money is going, how it's being spent. And so they have, a long distance view. So no one's surprised if there's something going on where we're having a shortfall or anticipating that we don't have enough money for something. And I think that is probably one of the biggest ways to build public trust, is just by being transparent, being honest, making sure we're using clear communication, cutting down on the jargon, and spelling out the acronyms and making sure everyone understands what we're dealing with. Thank you.
Could you repeat the question? Thank you.
Absolutely. With budget struggles being apparent in the Milton public schools over the last few years, resulting in increased fees for clubs and facility rentals, and certain clubs having to be shut down, many Milton residents' trust in the financial management of the district has dwindled. How do you propose Milton continue to maintain and improve public confidence in school budgeting?
In the past, the manner in which the school budget was put together, it was almost done in secret. Very few individuals had input into the budget. And when COVID hit, there were a loss of a lot of federal aids and grants that unfortunately were built into the budget. And then you had special education costs increasing by 16%. You had operational inflation, rising costs in utilities. And then you had, personnel and salaries increasing. When those grants ran out, the teachers were hired full-time. So being transparent on all the budgetary items. So when I look at the budget, you only see line item salary, you only see line item, special needs, line item transportation. You need to post those expenses line by line in order so the public can see it. And I like that Superintendent Fallon is actually doing, he's open, he's talking about it. Every principal sends out school budget announcements, what's happening at the school committee. These are the issues, these are the budgetary constraints that are going on. So enhancing those efforts to the taxpayer so they understand that the school budget, which is half the budget of the town itself, is transparent.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. The final question will be from Mr. Zamora, and will be asked first to Mr. O'Neill before being asked to Ms. Caldwell. Mr. Zamora?
As many know, the public schools have been dealing with budgetary issues in the past few years.
Yes.
What is your plan to continue to provide the best education and quality services as affordability struggles in the future?
Okay. So, Milton historically has had these budgetary constraints and obstacles because obviously the tax base is primarily residential, okay? Going forward, Milton has, like I just spoke about in our last answers, the select board candidates have spoken about it. The school budget has to be transparent, not just to the teachers union. It has to be transparent to the taxpayer, because the taxpayer needs to know where their money is being spent, okay? There's a big demand for, paying for everything that the school wants, okay? There are school board members here that do not say no. They just acquiesce to the demands of the school union and to the school administrators. That's not a healthy process. I'm a data-driven guy. You gotta convince me, when I'm on that board, that the decision that's gonna be made to hire certain teachers or personnel is gonna be the right choice for the school committee and the school department. So transparency on the budget is the key.
I'm sorry, but would you repeat the question, please?
Of course. As many know, the Milton Public Schools have been dealing with budgetary issues for the past few years. What is your plan to continue to provide the best education possible amid the difficulties?
So, the target for all of this are our kids and the quality of the education that kids in this town can expect to have. So for me, it would be important to prioritize student-facing roles. So positions that are directly in contact with the students and that have an immediate effect on student outcomes. So when we're looking at budgets and we're looking at line items, it would be important for me when we have to go through and be very careful and potentially restructure some things to make sure that we are starting from prioritizing things or budget items that are in line with instructional priorities that we've set at the district level. So I know one of the things that the current school committee is working on is aligning the budget with 5 instructional priorities so that every budget item that is requested, does it contribute to this instructional priority in some way? So does it contribute to tier 1 learning, for example? And making those a priority for funding when we have to sometimes make some difficult decisions about things that we're going to cut or that we're not going to fund. So that's my answer for how I would address that.
Thank you, candidates. That concludes our questions for the school committee forum, and we will now hear closing statements from the candidates chosen in a random order. The order will be Mr. O'Neill and then Ms. Caldwell. You may begin, Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you very much for hosting this candidates forum. I appreciate it. I'm running for school committee because I believe in Milton students, parents, teachers, and administrators, and that they deserve a school system that is consistent, transparent, and equitable. My approach is grounded in collaboration. It's data-driven. It's result-oriented. And I'm genuinely committed to listening to people, educators, teachers, parents, and the students themselves every single day that I'm on that board. I'm focused on strengthening the trust, the budgetary process, improving long-term planning, and ensuring that every decision that I make keeps the students, parents, and administrators and teachers at the center. After 4 years of listening, I'm ready to earn your vote April 28th. Thank you so much.
So we have some interesting times ahead of us. We have the superintendent search, as I mentioned, the assistant superintendent of financial operations. There's a cell phone policy that the school committee will have to enact sometime this fall. And continuing the work of responsible and transparent budget management alongside other members of the town's departments. My family moved here to take advantage of the diversity that Milton offers, as well as the excellent educational opportunities from the school system. And so as a member of the school committee, I will research ways to creatively and sustainably stabilize our budget. I'll advocate for the programs and services that our students need to be successful. And I will work with the members of the school committee and with other departments to deliver the best solutions that we can to the community. I hope that you vote for me on April 28th. Again, my name is Charisse Caldwell. Thank you.
Thank you to the candidates, thank you to the panelists, and please give us a moment while we set up for our next forum, the candidates for the Board of Health.
Welcome to our Board of Health candidates. We will begin with our bios. First, Mrs. Milbauer. Deborah Milbauer has lived in Milton for 24 years with her husband and 2 daughters, both graduates of Milton High School. She is a town meeting member, lead organizer for her neighborhood association, serves on 2 public health-related boards in Milton, and longtime collaborator with the Milton Health Department. Deborah teaches public health at Northeastern and holds 2 master's degrees in public health and social work. She has over 30 decades of community public health experience and is ready to serve on day 1. Welcome, Mrs. Milbauer. You may read your opening statement.
Thank you very much for giving candidates this opportunity. I'm running for the Board of Health to apply my expertise and deep commitment to accountable, modern public health practices. Public health is different than medical care. It is interdisciplinary, meaning it intersects with housing, transportation, and schools, just to name a few. Most people are unfamiliar with public health because when your water is clean and the air is not polluted and there's not a global pandemic afoot, public health becomes invisible. In Milton, the job of the 3-member elected Board of Health is to oversee the policies and mission of the Town Health Department, who in turn carry out the programming and deliver services. The staff of the Health Department work very hard on a very limited budget. In addition to carrying out the health regulations from the state, they deal with health promotion and prevention, such as the Milton Coalition. funded by a federal grant to promote youth mental health and address substance use, for which I was a paid consultant to the health department for 5 years and now sit on the program's board. When elected, I'll work with the Board of Health to begin community planning, so when the coalition funding ends next year, we will be prepared to carry on the amazing work. I feel proud of my investment and commitment to my neighbors and the Milton community. Public health is about improving health and wellness for the whole community. And I can't wait to utilize my policy development skills, my expertise collecting local level data to conduct community planning, and my experience launching new public health initiatives to hit the ground running to benefit all. I'm running only for one seat and I will give it my 100%.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Musto.
Thank you.
Roxanne Musto brings more than 25 years of experience in geriatrics as a certified nurse practitioner and previously worked as a registered nurse in Boston for a decade. Throughout her career, she has focused on caring for older adults and strengthening access to quality healthcare. Welcome, Ms. Musto. You may read your opening statement.
Thank you. During my tenure on the board, I have supported a wide range of public health initiatives benefiting Milton residents of all ages, and I am running for re-election to the Board of Health. I was a strong advocate for hiring of the board's community health social worker, who is considered an invaluable resource across the community. I've also supported the town's food drive, community health assessment, flu clinics for residents and employees, drug take-back days, accessibility to a language line for the health department, the addition of emergency food bags in the health department, and the Take One, Leave One program, food program. I've supported initiatives addressing mental health and opioid addiction, such as making Narcan available in Town Hall, utilizing recovery coach services, and awarding a $20,000 grant to the Milton Arts Center for its Healing Through the Arts program. The funding for this grant opportunity came from opioid settlement funds, and Milton is very much ahead of many towns in disbursement of these funds, and I'm excited to continue to add further grant opportunities. Finally, I have spearheaded efforts for the board to urge the state to conduct a healthcare capacity audit to ensure timely access to inpatient hospital beds, and I plan on elevating this issue further if re-elected to the Board of Health and elected to the Select Board. As a practicing healthcare professional, I stay up to date on emerging health issues. I look forward to continuing to expand mental health resources, grow grant opportunities, and enhance public health programming for all Milton residents. I respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, April 28th.
Thank you. And now to begin the forum. We will begin with a question from Mr. Griffin. And this question will be asked first to Ms. Milbauer and then to Ms. Musto.
Good evening, candidates. Milton Public Schools and families have reported rising concerns about stress, anxiety, and access to mental health resources. What role should the Board of Health play in expanding mental health support and reducing stigma within Milton?
Excellent question. Thank you. I really appreciate that. So there are many public health issues of concern, not just one, but some do rise to the top more urgently. Youth mental health is an urgent issue. And as I said in my opening statement, the Milton Coalition, which is specifically funded by a federal grant to target youth mental health and substance use prevention, has done amazing work over the last, shy of 9 years. But the grant is running out, and they have very specifically worked on issues of reducing stigma around mental health and reducing stigma around substance use in families that are affected by it. And the grant's running out, and I haven't seen any planning for it. And actually, my job for many years was I ran my own coalition, but for 5 years, but then I also advised coalitions all over the state around opioid money and substance use prevention. And so what I would do is start planning, as I said earlier, because if we don't start planning now, that grant money is going to run out and we won't have developed any sustainable plans to keep the amazing program running now. So I really appreciate the question because it's quite urgent actually to start planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you please repeat the question?
Of course. Milton Public Schools and families have reported rising concerns about stress, anxiety, and access to mental health resources. What role should the Board of Health play in expanding mental health support and reducing stigma within Milton?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. As you heard before, the Milton Coalition has been really instrumental with that. And I think the other thing that the Board of Health has done is looking at the opioid funds and seeing if we could use some of it for mental health, resources. And our health director interviewed a couple of agencies for that. The state had recommended, we did that work, and then the state came back and said, actually, you can't use your opioid funds for that. You have to use the state mental health 24-hour hotline. And communities that may have implemented one of these 4 agencies have now been told that the funding will be pulled. There's a big intersection, I would say, between mental health and substance abuse as well. And I think that, as Ms. Milbauer said, with the grant running out, we're going to be looking at opportunities for seeing if we could do another grant to continue the good work that's been done. I think the other thing is when we're talking about mental health, we should also be talking about the fact that we have a field that hasn't been done. That's the Lower Guile field at the high school. Anybody who plays sports, a rainy day, everything gets rained out and the kids can't play. Mental health intersects with outside, going out in the fields and playing sports. And I would support that we work towards getting that turf field done for our kids because mental health is a real problem right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will be from Mr. Neugebauer and will be asked first to Mrs. Musto and Ms. Milbauer.
This is a closely related question to that first one. So we know Milton's youth is facing increasing pressure related to stress, vaping, nutrition, and sleep. What will you do on the Board of Health to work with the schools specifically to support youth health and prevention programs?
Thank you for the question. We already have a community health social worker, Ann Grossman, who works closely with the schools. And I think that's a good thing. And she is working to see if there are any kind of more extra resources that can be brought into the schools. Again, I think having other opportunities for kids to have outlets, and I think sports is an outlet for kids, and getting outside and getting fresh air and team building and all of that sort of thing. So I think there are a lot of opportunities that we should be looking at. I think the Board of Health can work with the school department and try to come up with some ideas, look if there are any grants available and all of this. And I think, there's a lot of stress right now. I think we had a loss of learning when COVID hit. And what we're seeing that translate into a lot of stress for kids now because of what happened during COVID times. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question?
Milton's youth is facing increasing pressure related to stress, vaping, nutrition, and sleep. What will you do on the Board of Health to work with schools to support youth health and prevention programs?
Thank you very much. I teach at Northeastern and my students also are dealing with the same issues, so we actually talk about this a lot in class. To repeat what I said before, I think the Milton Coalition actually works closely with the schools on some of these issues, especially the vaping. And so directly, as I said before, I want to work to make sure that that we're able to sustain the funding after the federal grant money ends. So one thing that's related is we actually do have an incredible source of funding right now that isn't really being utilized. So as Ms. Musto said, we have resources from opioid settlement money that really haven't been taken advantage of. One pressing issue people don't realize is the town has received almost $500,000 in opioid settlement funds, but has only spent a fraction of the money in 4 years. The board means well, but could benefit from community planning expertise. Like one of my jobs is actually advising municipalities on opioid planning. For example, the board recently reviewed 4 strong proposals from community groups with ideas for projects, but declined 3 of them. The Milton Public Schools and 2 reputable organizations. If I were on the board, I would not have declined the Milton Public Schools for the opioid settlement money proposal. It was a social emotional learning project and it looked great. Although interestingly, the Board of Health doesn't post their pre-meeting packet, so I wasn't able to like the select board does, so I wasn't able to read it. I just could hear from the meeting. But it sounded like a wonderful proposal, and if I win, I would definitely fund the schools if they apply for funding.
Thank you. Our next question will be from Mr. Cheers, and will be asked first to Ms. Milbauer and then Ms. Musto.
Thank you, Ms. Jane, and hello, candidates. Public health decisions rely on accurate data about community needs. What types of data should Milton track more closely, and how would you use that data on the board to guide decisions?
Am I going first? Yes. That's an excellent question. So I have spent 30 years of my career doing community health assessments and planning, and teaching it in my classes. So community health assessment means you collect data, and data comes in all different forms. There's archival data, there's talking to people, there's interviews, there's focus groups. There's a really important data set called the Youth Risk Behavioral Survey. And the Milton Coalition, every 2 years actually, does a community health assessment, does an assessment. And you guys probably have taken it in school. It's that one that asks a lot of personal questions, like do you wear a bike helmet, and what are your eating habits like, and your substance use habits, and your sexual health habits, and ask confidential questions. And we use those questions, no student names are shown, and we use that information and we say, what are the issues that students are struggling with? That is how you use data, and that's how you do planning. And so you take the results from the Youth Risk Behavioral Survey, for example, and when I was a consultant for the Milton Coalition, that's what we did. Looked at the youth risk behavioral data, and being on the board now, we continue to every 2 years. And so that's what drives decision-making is collecting the data, and that is exactly what I'm hoping to do actually with the opioid money as well. It's great. Thank you for that question. Right up my alley.
Thank you. Could you kindly repeat the question?
Sure. Public health decisions rely on accurate data about community needs. What types of data should Milton track more closely, and how would you use that on the board to guide decisions?
Thank you. Milton did a community health assessment, so the Board of Health had a community health assessment, gathered a lot of data from that, looked at the YRBS, which is what Ms. Milbauer is referring to on youth data, and had some suggestions of what the main things that came out of that, the main topics. So as far as that community health assessment, we found that food insecurity was probably the top issue in town. And so some of the things that we've done with that are we have the food, emergency food bags are available through our health department. We have the Take One, Leave One program at Town Hall. It's at the library, senior center, a few other places. And so I think that we look at the data from that, and that's how we get the information as to where we should prioritize. I do want to clear something up that was said earlier about the opioid money. We are ahead of a lot of communities with that. We have a recovery coach shared with other communities, and as far as other communities, we're ahead of a lot of communities with how they spent the money. We just started rolling out the grant opportunity. We had the $20,000 grant to the Art Center. There was a Milton Public School grant, and there were 2 others. They didn't meet exactly all of the criteria, and our health director went back to ask for some more information. It wasn't a complete application, but hopefully they will apply again so that we can do this and support them.
Thank you. Our final question will be from Mr. Zamora, and will be asked first to Ms. Milbauer and then to Ms. Musto.
We live in a time where there's a lot of misinformation, specifically regarding self-medication, eating habits, and vaccination. How would you try to combat that issue?
That's a great question. One of the reasons I'm running for the Board of Health is because I think the work of the Board of Health and the Health Department that the board oversees, the staff, runs under the radar in this community. And I think we need to raise the profile and awareness of what the Board of Health does and the important work that it does and what the Health Department does. And so we need to have more visible communication, and it needs to be accurate communication, and it needs to be reliable, trustworthy communication. So to take a page from one of the other candidates, Hal Munger actually writes up post-meeting summaries. That's something I really want to do. And once you develop trust with the community and you establish yourself as knowledgeable, then when it's time to share information, like during COVID, people were really panicked. And I think that during COVID, the town, folks told me they turned to the Board of Health or the Health Department for information, and it was confusing. And I think that it's really important to develop trustworthy lines of communication. Health communication is actually a discipline of public health. It is an art and a science, because you really want to make sure that people trust the messages. But I appreciate the importance of making sure you have trustworthy communication with the town. Thanks.
May you repeat it, please? Thank you.
We live in a time where there's a lot of misinformation, especially regarding self-medication, eating habits, and vaccination. How would you attempt to combat this issue?
Thank you. I think it boils down to trust. We're a health board where our health director is a nurse by trade. We have an attorney, and we have a nurse who's in the public schools, and I'm a nurse practitioner. So for myself, I get the alerts all the time when there's an emerging illness coming out. I see it firsthand. I lived through COVID. And I think that we did a really good job through COVID. I think the health department organized meetings with all of the departments during COVID so that all the departments would understand what's going on and we hear what they were saying so that we could help guide them through that. We just implemented a newsletter through the health department that you can sign up for. I think that's a really great thing. I think everybody in that department works really hard. We have a community social worker who works hand in hand with the COA. She goes to the library and meets people there. And she works with the schools and she talks to the school department. So I think we have a really great department. I think they do a lot more than they get credit for. And I think in terms of information, we put things on the website. You can always go to our meetings. Our meeting minutes are posted, and they're up to date, which I can't say for everybody, but ours are. And so I think it's really helpful for people to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our Board of Health forum. And we will now hear closing statements from the candidates chosen at random. And the order will be Ms. Milbauer and then Ms. Musto.
Thank you so much. I just want to clarify something. We've had the opioid money for 4 years and we've only spent $45,000 out of $500,000. And we've got more money coming in every single year for another decade. So I think that there's a lot of work and a lot of planning to do around that. So thank you again for hosting us. When I first moved to Milton 24 years ago, I knew only a couple of families, but no one in my own neighborhood. The very first thing I helped organize was a block party. I had a 6-week-old infant in my arms on the day of the actual event. I knew that her future would be enriched by feeling a sense of belonging and connectedness to her community. Public health is exactly that, bringing community together to promote well-being. That is why public health is mission-driven for me. It really matters that we engage neighbors in community planning. We include their voices and create the very best policies and opportunities we can, all based on data-driven evidence for everyone, youth, families, individuals, and aging adults. I will end with a quote from my mom, who's 95 and a half, and embodies what healthy aging in place looks like. Vote for Deborah, you won't be sorry, because she has a work ethic beyond belief. And I love her. Thanks for voting for me, Deborah. On Tuesday, April 28th.
Okay, thank you. Earlier, I mentioned the experience I bring to the board with over 35 years of experience treating patients in frontline healthcare roles. I also noted the great work being done by a health department, initiatives that I've strongly supported and pushed for. Our board works well together. 3 members, all with different backgrounds, focused on how to best help the residents of this town. Our health department has done amazing work, and if re-elected, I look forward to working with my colleagues to further the department's efforts. I'm running for re-election to the Board of Health, and I'm running for election to the Select Board. It's an asset to the town of Milton to have me serving in both roles at the same time, just as I did with endless dedication and energy from 2022 to 2025. I'm the only candidate on the stage here to have served in both roles. I'm also the only candidate who has supported a turf field at Lower Guile because I care about our children's mental and physical health and equitable access to fields and playtime. With the project in limbo, it's costing the town money, and serving on both boards allows me to help address concerns while ensuring this important project moves forward in a responsible manner. Finally, I'm the only candidate who's been advocating for more inpatient hospital beds for those in need. Our town and region is experiencing a hospital bed capacity crisis. Our elected officials should be elevating this issue, and that's what I'll do if re-elected to the Board of Health. I respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, April 28th. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our candidates, and please give us a moment while we set up for our next forum, which is candidates for the library trustee.
Welcome to our candidates. We will begin with their bios. First, Ms. Fisher. Ellie Williams Fisher has lived in Milton for about 10 years with her husband and 2 sons, who attend Pierce Middle School and Glover Elementary School. Her professional background is in early childhood special education, and since living in Milton, she is focused on caring for her family while becoming deeply involved in the community by serving as the co-president of the Glover Parent-Teacher Organization and as the town meeting member for Precinct 3. Welcome, Ms. Fisher. You may read your opening statement.
Thank you so much to Milton Access Television and the Milton High School debate team and Milton Times for making this evening possible. And thank you to my fellow candidates for being here and sharing your love of the Milton Public Library with the residents in the room and at home on the television, watching from home. My name is Ellen Williams Fisher, and I go by Ellie. My family and I have lived in Milton for about 10 years. I have a 6th grader at Pierce and a 4th grader at Glover. My professional background is in early childhood special and general education, and I am deeply committed to civic engagement. I currently serve as the co-president of the Glover Parent-Teacher Organization, or PTO, and as a town meeting member in Precinct 3. My family and I are frequent library users. I'm running for trustee because the library is a unifying cornerstone of our community. It's a third place where everyone is entitled to be. And it plays an increasingly important role as our world becomes more complex and more digital. I want to help ensure that the library not only remains strong today, but also adapts to meet our future needs. If elected, I will engage in the library's strategic planning effort and support the library director, advocate for sufficient funding and monitor expenditures, and serve as an accessible
and responsive ambassador for the library, promoting its services, its collection, and programming while representing community needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Folcarelli. John is a labor and employment attorney, and he and his wife, Patricia, have lived in Milton since 1988 and brought up 4 children here, Meg, Jack, Francesca, and Anna. 2 remain in Milton and are frequent users of the library. John has been a trustee since 2017 and served as a treasurer, chairperson, and is the library's representative on the town's capital improvement committee. Welcome, Mr. Folcarelli. You may read your opening statement.
Thank you, and thanks to the debate team and the Milton Times and Milton Access, and to the voters that are still up watching this. I worked with someone a long time ago that was an outside counsel that said there's 2 types of board. He did a lot of public work, and he said there's 2 types of board members that I've run into. One is a person that's very idealistic, wins, and gets very frustrated because they feel like they can't do anything. And the others are ones that just run repeatedly and just like the prestige and power of the office. I'd like to think, even though I've served a few terms, that I'm still in the idealistic phase. I love the library. We've accomplished a lot. Chris Hodlin, who's an incumbent since before me, we've done a lot in terms of keeping our funds growing and improving the physical space of the library, and there's a lot more to be done. We need to increase staffing. The participation in the library has increased over the years and is continuing to increase, and I want to continue to be part of that future and keep my idealism about the library. So I hope you will vote for me on April 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Johnson. A Milton resident since 2013, Mark Johnson has spent those years riding his bike around town and checking out books from the Milton Public Library. He is running for re-election to town meeting, Precinct 7, and 4C on the Library Board of Trustees. Welcome, Mr. Johnson, and you may read your opening statement.
Thank you. Well, thank you to the Milton High School debate team, Milton Times, Milton Access TV, and thank you to the neighbors that are joining us tonight. I'm Mark Johnson, and I'm running for a trustee of the Milton Public Library. I'm a neighbor from Church Street in East Milton, and I've lived there for 13 years. And I've been a patron of the library, a frequent patron for that time as well. And in that time, the library has evolved with me. It started with books that I needed to borrow. It started with me needing a quiet place to study, which it provided. But later, as I had a family, it became a place where I could take my son to check out books and to check out graphic novels. It later became a place where I could work quietly because I'm a work from home guy and sometimes I need to get out of the house. And more recently, it's become a place where I can give back, a place where I had an opportunity to lead a workshop on artificial intelligence as part of the broad array of programs that the library offers to neighbors and patrons. That's what a great library does. It meets you where you are and it grows with you. I'm running because I want that experience for every neighbor and for generations of neighbors, those that are here now, those that will be here tomorrow, and those that will be here in the future. I want to help this board ask the right questions, provide the right support, and make sure this library has what it needs to keep doing what it does. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final candidate, Ms. Hodlin. Christine and her husband, Paul, have lived in Milton since 1984, where they raised 3 children and are fortunate to have 6 grandchildren also residing in town. Christine has served on the library board for 12 years and hopes to continue her work there. Welcome, Ms. Hodlin. You may read your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you to the debate team, Milton Access TV, and Milton Times. So appreciate you all being here and let us talk and talk and talk. So you've heard that statement several times. During my tenure on the library board, I've been able to help improve the library services for our residents and the town. I hired a new investment manager to manage the trustee funds. I helped launch the Writer in Residence program in honor of our beloved and past trustee, Herb Voigt. I led the evaluation of the Kidder building against our library's mission. In 2009, the renovation and expansion of the Milton Public Library was completed at a cost of $13.4 million. The project was funded by the town, a state library grant, and generous donations to the Library Foundation by our citizens. The most recent several years, I have worked with several town officials and committees to search for options for additional parking for our extremely popular library. My hope is to be able to continue this work and allow the town to fully utilize this beautiful resource.
Thank you. And now to begin the forum. We will start with our first question from Mr. Neugebauer, and it will be asked first to Ms. Fisher, then Mr. Folgarelli, then Mr. Johnson, and finally Ms. Hodlin.
Are you in support of the proposed parking lot expansion by the Milton Public Library? If so, how do you plan to gain the funding, support, and land to do so?
So I think that the first thing to acknowledge is that there is a need for parking at certain parts of the day. I have experienced driving into the parking lot, circling a couple times, and much to my kids' chagrin, leaving because the parking is not there. I think that the library trustees have presented a proposal that has gotten lots of attention, and I hope thoughtful feedback. I would evaluate, if I'm elected as library trustee, I would evaluate any proposal through several criteria, and keeping that in mind, they would be, does the proposal receive robust community input? Is it cost effective? Is it safe? Is it environmentally responsible? And is there fidelity to the history and architecture of the town center, which is on the National Register of Historic Places? This is a conversation that is ongoing, and I think will be subject to change, given that there'll be another forum to discuss the input that's been received so far. I think concurrent to exploring long-term, larger-scale solutions to the parking situation, the library trustees, in partnership with the select board and possibly some other appropriate boards, should consider smaller in scale and perhaps even reconsider some past ideas so that there can be more immediately available parking in the lot and around the lot now and not in years to come.
So my answer to the question is yes.
Do you want to answer the second part of the question? I can reread it.
Yes, please.
How do you plan to gain the funding, support, and land to do so?
Well, and those are the kinds of things that we're looking at. The board, Chris Hodlin has been the lead on this, but we're looking at whatever funding sources we can get. Obviously, there's a lot of demand on the tax dollars in this town. Rehabilitation of another fire station, completing the other fire station, a possible new school. We're looking at public-private partnerships. We're looking at small and big expansion. So we have to keep studying that, and we have to be judicious with our approach to this.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Are you in support of the proposed parking lot expansion by the Milton Public Library? If so, how do you plan to gain the funding, support, and land to do so?
Thank you. Well, I support increased programming for the Milton Public Library. I think the director and the leadership have been quite clear in the impact that the current parking arrangement has on the library's ability to provide that programming. It seems to me, and certainly this is spelled out in the role of the trustees, that our role is to work in partnership with the leadership to help the library execute on its mission, which includes programming. And so if there is a solution for that, and parking is certainly one, then I would support pursuing that. I think to the second part of the question around funding, support, and land, I want to be cautious because I'm not on the board, or I'm not yet on the board. And certainly, much has been done, as John has pointed out, in terms of pursuing options. But what I would say is that, be it parking or any other activity that has implications for the town, I would hope for and certainly urge transparency, thoughtfulness, and discipline, all in pursuit of the mission of the library.
Could you restate it once more? Thank you.
Are you in support of the proposed parking lot expansion by the Milton Public Library? If so, how do you plan to gain the funding, support, and land to do so?
Yes, kind of. So I'll say I've been working on parking for many, many years for the library. And really what we've been looking at is, are there ways to add additional parking anywhere? And we have researched many, many ways and places all around the entire area of the Milton Public Library. The library needs more parking. It needs more parking to support what is currently happening at the library. We have rooms that are empty because we can't allow people to use those rooms because we don't have enough parking for them, because there's other programs going on that fill up the parking lot, and so there's a room empty. We also have programs. One of the most popular is the morning children's programs. We could have more people there. It's a great demand program, and we could have more people there, but there isn't enough parking to support more, even though we can do that. We have looked at as many places as we can find, and we've been working most recently with the Milton Planning and Implementation Committee, which has identified a parcel across the street from the town hall as a possibility. And when we went to the select board, which we've done several times, they're looking for us to look at a possible multi-use, which could partner with the developer, and also something that would generate revenue. So that's where we are right now. If that could happen, we don't know yet. So there is no project that is actually out there yet. But we're hoping to be able to see if there is a project that may work to help us.
Thank you very much. So the next question will be from Ms. Jane and will be asked first to Mr. Falcarelli, Mr. Johnson, Ms. Hodlin, and then finally Ms. Fisher.
Okay, my question is, what are the library trustees not currently doing that they should be doing?
I think, well, I don't necessarily agree with the predicate there. I think we're doing a lot here, and we're continuing to do a lot. We look at the budget, we review policies, we review space, we every 5 years have a new strategic plan. One of the things that we did do, and I've been a member of the library, has a seat on the Capital Improvement Program Committee, and I've been the first and only representative of that so far. We recently got a generator for the library, which was much needed, and we've just also approved a whole bunch of other physical renovations, et cetera. So we just need to be, it's not that we're not doing anything, we need to do more of what we've been doing, so as best as we can.
Would you please repeat the question?
Of course. My question is, what are the library trustees not currently doing that they should be doing?
Well, I said earlier that I didn't want to be presumptuous around some things because I'm not yet on the board. But I'll point to two things that I suppose I'm curious about. I'm a patron and I'm a parent, and I'm a frequent user of the library. So a thing that I wonder is kind of whether and what opportunities the library, with kind of guidance and support from the board, is pursuing with the schools and their PTOs, with local literacy organizations, Because that certainly seems like a partnership opportunity that would be appropriate for a local library, and that would be beneficial to the town and its patrons. So that's a thing that I wonder about. I also wonder kind of what opportunities there are for the library and really the board to be more visible to members of the town. I am somewhat familiar with the role, obviously because of my patronage and now current interest. But I know that there are other neighbors who wish to know more about what the board does and the ways in which they and the town can partner to really support the library towards the fulfillment of its mission.
Thank you.
Could you repeat it? Just one more.
Yes. So my question is, what are the library trustees not currently doing that they should be doing?
Give me more time to think of something that we're not doing, so. I don't know, that's a tough question. I think certainly some of the things that Mark said, possibly literacy programs is something that we have not taken on. I know there's several other libraries in the area that do English learning for non-English speakers. We are not a real vocal group. We only meet 6 times a year, and we meet all the other times are subcommittees that are behind the scenes that do all the work. So this, isn't something that we're out there. People they can certainly come to the subcommittee meetings. They're all posted. But I'll say one thing that I would really like to see is developing more advocacy for our need of parking, because many people are like, I don't hear anyone saying there's no parking, but I need parking, I need more parking. So it's like people don't really believe that this is an issue and a problem for the library in order for it to grow. So,
thank you.
I think that the library is doing so much for our town and our community, and I think it's just a matter of fine tuning in some areas. It was mentioned that the next round of strategic planning is going to be starting shortly. I would like to see a more robust plan for digital literacy and AI initiatives to be part of the strategic plan. I think that also, to echo what's been said, I think that there could be stronger outreach to different local organizations and associations. I know that the public library has a strong relationship with the elementary public schools in town, less so with Pierce. That is a partnership that could be strengthened. And I think that the trustees could play a larger role in being the cheerleaders for the library. One thing that I think is really incredible for our library is that the Assistant Director, Sarah Truog, is on the committee, the Newbery Committee, which is one of the most prestigious awards given to young people's literature. This is a huge honor for her and for us to have somebody there. I think that also we can have more teen programming. A lot of children use the library after school hours, and having a more dynamic program offering for students walking over from the high school or Pierce would be wonderful.
Our final question will be from Mr. Zamora and will be asked first to Ms. Hodlin, then Ms. Fisher, then Mr. Falcarelli, and then Mr. Johnson.
The library offers a wide array of programs and services. If parking were an issue, how would you like to expand or improve upon them?
If parking was not an issue?
Yeah, if parking was not an issue, how would you expand or improve existing programs?
First, as I said, we're not utilizing all of the space in the library, so we actually have to refuse groups that call to use the library. So we would be able to do that. There is very limited space around town for committee meetings and groups to meet. So the library can certainly serve the residents more that way. The other way is the existing programs that we do offer, especially the children's programs, is you can't have enough room for all those kids and parents or grandparents or whoever wants to bring their children to those programs. So again, by offering some parking that's close by, that's safe, for someone with strollers, especially in the winter, if you've ever walked down Canton Avenue, and saw the snowplows there, it'd be a little hard to get your children and yourselves out of the, driver's side of the vehicle and get around onto the sidewalk to make it safely to the library. So, the children's program would certainly be able to be expanded, and any other programs. I mean, at this point, the library, one of Will's comments is, if we build it, they'll come. I mean, if any of you have been in the library recently, it's just very well used and very well liked, and it's a beautiful, peaceful space, so.
Thank you. Next from Ms. Fisher.
So to piggyback off of what Chris just mentioned, currently the library is offering around 800 programs a year, and the library staff would love for it to be 1,000. And they are kings and queens of programming and probably would have no problem coming up with additional ideas if accessibility were in the parking lot were easier. Certain programs that I would like to see more of, and that what I've heard from people in the community saying that they want, which is really what should be driving our the programming choices. I think include cross-generational programming. I spoke to Christine Stanton at the Council on Aging, and she mentioned that that would be a really wonderful addition to the programming at the library. I think, again, going back to middle schoolers who are and high schoolers who are coming to the library following school, having opportunities for them, such as maker spaces, perhaps rooms and materials for podcasts, would be also wonderful additions to the programming. And again, as a parent of former toddlers, we were in the library all the time for children's programming, and we were big fans of Sarah's puppet show. And so really any programming for children is always appreciated.
Thank you.
Yep, again, piggybacking off what's been said so far, I think that if parking weren't an issue, there would just be more programs for children, more programs for adults, more programs for teens. There already is a lot of outreach to the community. Will Adams, the excellent director that we have, spends a lot of time at Fuller Village as and other locations. Sarah Truard works closely with the schools, and some of that outreach could come back in to the library if there were the available space and the ability to park when you wanted to go to the library. So we don't like hearing that people have come and decided that because they can't find a parking space, they're going to go someplace else. So we need to do what we can to make parking not an issue.
Well, thank you for the question. I think about this in two ways. First, Ellie pointed out that what I think would hope is that demand from the community would drive the kind of programming that the library might offer if, say, parking were not an issue. Speaking as someone who had an opportunity to lead a program there, I would say that I would have appreciated a chance to have done it twice, perhaps in the same day. On the one hand, I was grateful to be able to do it at a time when presumably many neighbors could join. On the other hand, I would imagine that there were probably neighbors who would have appreciated a chance to attend that workshop maybe earlier in the day. So kind of setting aside the what of the programming, there certainly might be an opportunity to kind of double up on some things twice a day if there were kind of additional space for patrons to park. I think the other thing, though, and certainly if someone asked me as just a regular neighbor and patron what I might like to see, what I would observe is that the library in this and other towns is often the only place where many people of all backgrounds, ages, and experiences come together. If there were a program that would allow me to interact in a direct way with those other neighbors, it feels like a library could be really well.
Thank you, everybody. That concludes our library trustee forum. We will now hear closing statements from the candidates chosen at a random order. The order will be Mr. Johnson, Ms. Hodlin, Ms. Fisher, and finally, Mr. Falcarelli. Ms. Johnson, you may begin.
Well, thanks again to Milton Access Television, to the debate team, to Milton Times, and to the neighbors who joined. Hopefully what you heard in my remarks tonight is that the Milton Public Library has been there for me and my family since arriving here 13 years ago. But as I reflected on the why I'm running and the why the library is important to me, I came to a place where I realized that not just the Milton Public Library, but libraries have been there for me throughout my life. And I think, neighbors, if you think about your own experiences, you will find that libraries have been there for you too. On April 28th, I am asking you to go to the ballot and to put your mark, M-A-R-C, on that ballot so that I may continue to bring to this library that I love the experience, the dedication, the showing upness that I think is important to this and any board, all in service to everything that the Milton Public Library does for this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next, Ms. Hodlin.
I really appreciate your letting us all come here. Unlike Dan, we haven't been here 4 times over and over. Even though we've been on the board 12 years, we rarely get a chance to speak. So thank you for doing that. I'm a townwide volunteer. I've served on the warrant committee as a town meeting member for over 20 years, treasurer of the boosters, PTOs, etc. I'm an active member of the United Congregational Church, and I've served on the board for 4 terms. The highlight of my civic volunteer work has been serving as a library trustee. The Milton Library is one of Milton's gems, a place to serve our entire community and all generations. What's not to love about our library? I'm proud of my work with the board in collaboration with our director, Will, and I humbly ask you for one of your votes on April 28th.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Fisher.
I'm proud to call Milton home. Over the past 10 years, I have been an active member of this community, and like so many of you and my family, has relied on the public library in ways both big and small. I'm running for library trustee to help sustain the library as Milton's vibrant cultural, information, and community center, and to ensure that it continues to evolve, inspire, and serve every resident for years to come. As a parent, an educator, a PTO leader, and a town meeting member, I've spent years listening to people, working collaboratively, and helping strengthen the institutions that bring our community together. I understand how important it is that the library remains welcoming, accessible, and responsive to the needs of all residents. This role is about stewardship, thoughtful planning, and making sure the library continues to evolve while staying true to what makes it so special. I would be honored to earn one of your votes on April 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Mr. Falcarelli.
So as I'm sitting here, I have to say, if I were in the audience, I would have a hard time deciding. I think this is a panel of great candidates, and I think any one of us will do a great job on the trustees. But that having been said, I think over the past 3 terms, we've done a lot of work, and there's a lot of more work to be done. And I've proven myself both on the Capital Improvement Program Committee as a town meeting member and as the former chairperson and treasurer of the trustees to be a strong advocate for the library. And I hope to continue to do that work for you, and I ask for your vote on April 28th. Thank you.
Thank you to our candidates. Please give us a moment while we set up for our final forum of the evening, candidates for the planning board.
Welcome to our planning board candidates. We will begin with Mr. Munger. Hal and his wife Jacqueline live in East Milton with their 3 young boys, 2 of whom are in the French immersion program at Collycott. He is an Eagle Scout and a graduate of the University of Notre Dame. Outside of work, he coaches youth flag football and basketball and volunteers with the Milton Foundation for Education, where Jacqueline is a board member. Welcome, Mr. Munger. You may now read your opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the Milton High School debate team, Milton Times, and Milton Access TV for hosting this event. Over the past year, I followed every planning board meeting, attended community meetings across town, and shared recaps with neighbors to stay informed without sitting through hours of discussion. That experience has reinforced my belief that the decisions we make today will shape how Milton looks, feels, and functions for years to come. Serving on the planning board comes with responsibility, not just to manage change, but to shape it thoughtfully and to leave Milton better than we found it for the residents in every neighborhood. That's why I'm running. For 364 years, Milton has evolved to meet the needs of its residents, shaped by generations who did their part and passed it on. Now it's our turn. We need to be proactive about the future we want and honest about what it will take to get there. We owe it to that to ourselves and to the students here tonight who will inherit these decisions. My approach is focused on 3 priorities. First, stronger public engagement, bringing residents into the conversation early to build trust and improve outcomes. Second, encouraging a wider range of housing options so people at every stage of life can find a place in Milton, guided by clear, predictable planning. And third, protecting what makes Milton feel special while ensuring we remain a welcoming, vibrant community for all. I'm an architect with nearly 20 years of experience in planning and historic preservation, focused on listening, collaboration, and problem solving. That's what good planning requires, and that's what I'll bring to this role. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Munger. Our next candidate is Lindsay Sands. Lindsay Sands is a longtime Milton resident, attorney, and a mother of 3, with more than 20 years of experience spanning affordable housing, economic development, and infrastructure. Every day, she navigates rules and regulations, solves problems creatively, and finds common ground to help projects move forward. She is running for planning board to bring a practical, thoughtful approach to growth with a focus on clearer processes, more certainty, and planning that preserves what people love about Milton while preparing for the town's future. Welcome, Ms. Sands. You may now read your opening statement.
Thank you, and I will assure you, I'm not the mother of free. My 3 children are quite expensive, as everybody knows, being a parent. Good evening, and thank you for having me. I'm Lindsay Sands, and I'm running for planning board because I believe Milton can continue to grow thoughtfully, practically, and still feel like Milton. Milton, like many towns, is at a turning point. We are facing real decisions about housing, zoning, traffic, and growth, and about what kind of town we want to be in the years ahead. I'm running because I believe this moment calls for steady judgment, clear planning, and leadership that can look beyond the issue of the day. I'm an attorney, and for more than 20 years, my work has been about navigating complex rules, balancing competing interests, spotting issues early, and helping moving important projects forward. I started my career in affordable housing, and today I work in-house at a clean energy company, where I help make forward-looking decisions that affect both business and communities. That experience has taught me how important it is to ask the right questions early, create clearer processes, and make decisions people can rely on. This is personal for me too. I'm a longtime Milton resident, a former town meeting member, a precinct captain on the override, and my husband and I have 3 children in the Milton Public Schools. So the decisions this board makes are not abstract to me. They shape the town my family calls home. My priorities are smart, sustainable housing, stronger support for local businesses, and planning that is clear, fair, and forward-looking. Milton can grow and still feel like home, but only if we plan well together. I'd be honored to earn your vote on April 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final candidate of the evening, Ms. Cheryl Tagayas. Cheryl and her family have made Milton their home for decades, a town defined by its historic character, strong neighborhoods, and deep sense of community. As the longest-serving member of the planning board, Cheryl, a licensed architect, believes that proactive planning can help ensure that Milton continues to meet the evolving needs of residents while also protecting what makes it special. Welcome, Ms. Tagayas. You may now read your opening statement.
Thank you. I'll see if my voice will make it with us tonight, being the last candidate here tonight. But thank you to Milton Access TV, to the Milton Times, and to the Milton High School debate team. My husband, George, and I moved to Milton nearly 30 years ago, and our 2 children were born and raised here, and they are both Milton High grads. Very proud of that, as I might add. And we've been really happy to make Milton our home for these 3 decades. As I said in the opening comment, I am an architect with over 30 years of experience running my own practice. So what I do with that is not only design buildings, but I assemble teams, I assess sites, I study neighborhoods, I engage with communities, and navigate complex approval processes. These skills I've been bringing to the planning board for the last 11 years, and I'd like to continue to do that because I think there's a lot more work that we can do in Milton, and I think my skill set and my experience would be valuable to that. I also have chaired the Master Plan Implementation Committee for 10 years, and I learned so much in doing that work. I've worked with so many people, both on the planning board and on the Master Plan Implementation Committee, and I've served 15 years as a town meeting member. Experience matters when our decisions are complex and long-term, and I'd like to continue doing that work on the Milton Planning Board.
And now to begin the planning board forum. We will begin first with a question from Mr. Gordon, and it will be asked to Mr. Munger, followed by Ms. Sands, and then Ms. Tagayas.
Thank you. So my question is, what will you do in this role to improve general affordability, considering Milton is among the most expensive housing markets in the state?
Yes, thank you for that question. I think that that's one of the most important things that we as a planning board and we as a society and community really need to tackle. Affordability can be 2 things to me. It can be affordability, meaning that it's a certain, the price of the house or the price of the unit is a certain amount of the average median income. But I also think that we can address affordability by providing more diverse housing options. And what I mean by that is currently Milton has a very great number of single-family homes. You drive around anywhere in town, we have wonderful, beautiful homes. We have a few larger developments like 88 Wharf and the Hendry's building that have come online recently. But what's really missing is somewhere in between. It's called the missing middle. First-time home buyers in 2025, the average age was 40 years old. In 2015, that was 31. We have a real problem here where we don't have the types of houses that the people want in town. I was speaking with a woman when we were door knocking in East Milton, and she was voicing concern that she has a very beautiful home that she can't sell because she has nowhere to go in town. I think that we owe it to both the people that are more senior in town, but also people that are high school age and my kids that eventually will be coming back and providing opportunities for starter homes. And I think the planning board has a really important role that we should be playing and that we need to be playing in the future.
Yeah, I think one thing to recognize at first is affordability, and why Milton has become so expensive is because of the town that we've made it, right? Our schools are developing, the graduates are thriving. We've developed a lot over the years. Hendry's building more restaurants than before since I moved here since 2010. It's getting late. And I do believe that there needs to be diversity of housing. I think we need to, again, focus on the affordable housing 10% threshold, make sure we stay ahead of that. That will constantly be a moving target. The more houses you put online, the more that percentage will change. I think we need to look at other programs. There's the 40Y program, which I understand may not make a lot of sense for Milton, but it is more of a starter home, kind of a cottage home neighborhood. I'd like to kind of at least explore that as it generates some revenue both for zoning and building. And I think we also need to just have a balancing act. There is affordability from supply and demand. There's affordability, like Hal said, area median income. But I think that if you're looking at standard overall affordability of living in this town, you're constantly going to be balancing by improving amenities and livability and how that's going to increase the value of living here. So.
Mr. Guys.
It's a really challenging question and an issue, I think, not just for Milton, but for the state, for the country, and the world, actually. Our state has been trying to address affordability through some state initiatives, going way back to 1965 with the 40B regulation, and more recently with the accessory dwelling unit and MBTA communities. There's currently legislation pending that would also adjust our zoning. So I think Milton really needs to look at its zoning. We, in the town of Milton, implemented zoning in 1938, after much of Milton was already built. What was built before that zoning included 2- and 3-family homes. We have hundreds and hundreds of 2 families that are interspersed amongst our single families that most people probably wouldn't know are there. But they provide an affordable option, but we don't allow those to be built anymore. So I think we need to look at that. That's the kind of infill I think that Hal's talking about, and it's the kind of scale I think that people would support. I also think we need to look at our town-owned land and what we might be able to do with that. Because when we're looking at mostly single-family homes and looking at seniors who wish to downsize, where can we find some opportunities with land that is available? There might not be a lot, but we need to turn over every rock. And lastly, I'd like to say we do need to look at housing types because single family doesn't meet all household requirements.
Thank you. The next question will be from Ms. Cross and will be asked first to Ms. Sands, followed by Ms. Tagayas, and finally Mr. Munger.
Thank you. In regards to the MBTA Communities Act, do you believe that the town of Milton was properly classified as a rapid transit community? If so, why is it important to further compliance? And if not, how should the town be reclassified and why? Thank you.
I believe that the town was not properly classified. I think it should have been an adjacent community, not a rapid transit community. That said, that decision has been made. It's final. We have zoning adopted to comply with the rapid transit classification. I don't necessarily agree with how it was zoned. I think we could have done more zoning by the actual transit that we are trying to orient the housing around under that law, and that's my position on it.
Thank you.
Mr. Guys.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. In regards to the MBTA Communities Act, do you believe that the town of Milton was properly classified as a rapid transit community? And if so, why is it important to further compliance? And if not, how should the town be reclassified and why?
Well, the definitions and the classification of rapid transit came from federal standards that the state adopted. And so we met those requirements. So I felt as if, and I feel as if, yet, yes, that we were properly classified. I spent nearly 3 years working on ways to have us comply with the requirements first by looking at the draft guidelines and offering comments about how Milton could be given some different considerations, considering the trolley runs along the border with Boston and half the catchment area lied within Boston. So we were able to get guidelines changed to allow for 50% of the capacity to be put elsewhere in town. We also were able to say that 15 units per acre didn't have to be blanket, that we could be an average, so that some place could have as few as 3 units, whereas other places could have more, so we could balance it out. I did these things by studying Milton's neighborhoods. Where did it make sense to have smaller development? Where did it make sense to have larger development? And our zoning that we passed is surgical. No other community was as surgical as ours and took into consideration all of the built character that we have in Milton.
Thank you.
Based upon my understanding of the rules and guidelines, I do agree with our classification for a rapid transit community. As was stated, this has been litigated several times at this point, and the zoning has been passed. So I believe that at this point, it's the planning board's job and role to, when those projects start to come in, which as of today, none have come in thus far. But when they do, I think it's going to be really important to have people that have technical review expertise as an architect, like I do, to be able to review those drawings, to make sure that they're conforming to the zoning, conforming to the bylaws that were passed, and fit in with the requirements set forth in those MBTA community bylaws.
The final question will be from Mr. Zamora and will be asked first to Ms. Tagayas, followed by Mr. Munger, and finally Ms. Sams.
Bro, how do you plan to preserve the historic field of Milton while growing the tax base and keeping it business friendly?
Well, Milton, as a lot of people know, is fairly built out, but that doesn't mean we don't have opportunities. Some have said tonight and at other moments that properties will change, such as La Brea College, where that college will be absorbed by Curry and that campus will be sold. Right now, that is zoned for single-family use, and you would have 3 homes that could be built there. Now, there's probably a 90,000 square foot building there, so is that tearing that down and putting 3 single-family homes the best use of that land? Milton has lost properties and put single families. That's why we're in shortage of community space. The Women's Club torn down, so for 3 single-family homes. We need to think about where we have opportunity, and it'll be surgical, just like the zoning was, but I think it's possible. Our business districts have vacancies. We have some vacant buildings on Brook Road and Milton Village on Adams Street and East Milton Square. Why? I think we need to talk with the business community. I think Milton would like to see more local businesses. I think our approval processes are long and complicated. It deters people from wanting to open businesses here. We can do better. Will it make a huge dent in our overall budget? Probably not, but we need to look at every item that can help.
Yes. So I live in East Milton. There's a very large 40B that's going up there near the Fruit Center. Along Brush Hill Road on Randolph Ave. These are very large projects that I think a lot of us would agree don't necessarily fit in with the scale and sometimes the character of what we envision Milton as being. And to me, what we're seeing now is because of decisions that were or were not made 15, 20 years ago. And so why I'm running and what I think the board needs to do is to do more proactive planning. Look towards the future and understand what we do and don't want to be happening in town. I was fortunate enough to take part in a visioning exercise at the East Congregational Church down the street from me. And what I really enjoyed was it brought together neighbors, stakeholders, experts in the field to try to envision what that church, which is no longer operating as a religious institution, house, could be. And what I really took away was neighbors have ideas of what they do and don't want. They don't want to say no to everything, but they want to have a say in what comes into their neighborhood. And I think that to your question, I don't think it's an either or question. I think that we can both expand and grow Milton while still maintaining the character and the feel that we all live here for and have stayed here. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question, please?
As Milton continues to grow, how do you plan to preserve the historic feel of Milton while remaining business-friendly and growing the tax base?
So I agree with some of what Cheryl said. I think we have to first look at our existing businesses. As she noted, there are quite a few vacancies actually, and I'd like to understand why that is. Is it parking? Is it traffic? Is it foot traffic? Is it rents? Is the affordability issue? Because obviously improving our existing business districts would help this issue in many ways. I think that we also need to look at smart growth. And I think you can't chase growth everywhere. And I think a lot of what will attract the right development is also going back to the master plan. What are we planning for today and for tomorrow, and processes? A lot of businesses and residents might not understand the decisions being made or how they're being made, and then not have the confidence to make the investments in their homes and businesses. And I think it's important that we're transparent in our processes and clear and consistent, so that when people look at Milton to reside, whether as a resident or as a business, they kind of know what they're signing up for.
That concludes our planning board forum. We will now hear closing statements from the candidates chosen at random. The order will be Ms. Tagayas, followed by Mr. Munger, and finally Ms. Sands.
I'm running for re-election because the choices we make today about housing, local businesses, open space and recreation will shape Milton for generations. Protecting what makes Milton unique while preparing responsibly for the future takes thoughtful, proactive planning, clear decision-making, and a commitment to listening to residents. My priorities, if re-elected, are to collaborate with other boards on long-range planning to ensure long-term sustainable solutions, to address housing needs proactively so we shape our future intentionally rather than reacting to outside pressures. Local control is key to protecting neighborhoods. Third is to support local businesses and appropriately scaled economic development, smart, measured growth to strengthen our tax base. This would include streamlining the permitting processes to be clear, fair, and predictable, saving time, reducing unnecessary costs, and providing transparency. Clear rules build trust. I would be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you again to the Milton High School debate team, to the Milton Times, and to the Milton Access TV for guiding such a thoughtful conversation. Throughout this campaign, I've had the chance to connect with neighbors at my kids' sports events, over coffee, and while personally knocking on over 750 doors across town. And no matter where the conversation happens, one thing is clear. People are done being divided, done with the us versus them mentality. People are ready to find ways to work together. There are big challenges ahead in Milton, but with them come real opportunities. Moving forward will take fresh thinking and a willingness to approach problems differently. As an architect, I bring a problem-solving mindset, holistic perspective, and a collaborative approach, because the best solutions are the ones we build together. I respectfully ask for your vote on April 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, again for hosting this evening. This race for me, it's not about ego and it's not about pushing a personal agenda. I'm not coming in with a project I want approved or blocked. I'm coming in with a clear focus, clear rules, more consistency, and better planning so people actually understand how decisions are made.
Because when the process works, the outcomes are better and people trust them. In my day job, that's what I do. I work through complex issues, ask the right questions early, and help get to practical, workable solutions. And at home with 3 kids in the schools, I'm just as invested in getting this right for the future of the town. I don't take myself too seriously, but I do take this work seriously. I would just focus on doing the work thoughtfully, asking good questions, and making decisions that hold up over time. I'll admit lawyers don't always get a lot of love, but this is one place where reading the fine print and asking the extra questions actually matters. I would really appreciate your vote on April 28th.
And that concludes our evening. Thank you to all the candidates for participating in tonight's forum. And thank you to the viewers.